Welcome back, everyone, to NACC R6. My name is Phil, also joined here tonight by my main duo of Infernosis, and, well, we've got a pretty interesting matchup here for today. It's going to be St. Ambrose versus the University of Rio Grande, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I know we had a couple of gripes with that last season. I'm sure we'll get it at some point, never eventually. You never know. But hey, a little short on time, so quickly let's go over the rosters, starting with the University of Rio Grande to see who they've got up here tonight for this best of three.
Yeah, Rio Grande's going to be bringing out Kaboost, Azura, Undead King, Terminal, and Quixia for the board. I like a lot of what the majors they're going for. Computer science, it'll get you far in today's business. But, well, I don't see a single caster major in there at all whatsoever, John. So I feel like there's maybe not a huge future in this. Maybe we should take a step back and just let them handle it and see what the computer sciences can do.
Yeah, a little upsetting. Unfortunately, not going to have any new Infernosis copies, I guess, for the time being. But hey, maybe next semester.
I didn't go to college for this either, though.
For broadcasting. Yeah, me neither. So didn't even go to college, period. Anyways, take a look at St. Ambrose's lineup as well, and then we will quickly take a look at the map bands following up after that. We have Uwu, so I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun talking about them, especially since, hey, that's also your major as well. They're almost done with it too in their junior year. Ajax, Trojan, Hines, and also Ancient Boots. So some pretty fun names and some pretty fun majors as well, Scott.
Actually, I really like the idea of digital media production because I did take some production classes in my final two semesters when I knew I was going into broadcasting. So if you ever go to college, John, I recommend that, actually. It would be kind of fun for you to have that experience and do it. It actually was a fairly helpful for behind-the-scenes kind of things. But I am expecting a pretty good game in terms of this first match of the night here on the B stream, having the Emergence Division up. It's 1-1 record for the University of Rio Grande, but for the side of St. Ambrose Esports, they've had a really solid start. They've gone 2-0. And they were somewhat close matches. Their match against Murray State Blue actually required them to go to 3, so that could be a possibility here tonight. But when you're facing a team that you know is 1-1, you do still need to have some respect because they still have managed to find a W under their board. But let's take a look at the maps to see what Map 2 and Map 2 our guarantor maps will be and what Map 3 could possibly be going forward.
Well, this is as cookie cutter as you could probably get for a best of 3. Villa, Clubhouse, followed up finally by Oregon. At least we might not have to see Oregon until very later on in the matchup, or potentially not see it at all if it is a 2-0 victory for one of these two teams. But these are all pretty just normal picks to go to. I'm glad we got Cafe out of the way early on, but it did suck to see Chalet follow immediately after that as well. But yeah, I think we're just about ready to actually get the game underway, so we will begin to start up the lobby with all 10 players now ready. Then we'll just head right on into Villa and see what the operator bands are going to be like for tonight's matchup, Scott.
When you're talking about Villa, you're talking about a very wide open map and a lot of spacing that can be extended upon by the defense. So that's something we may want to keep in mind when we're seeing our agent selection, not necessarily the ban phase. Some teams will choose to get rid of maybe target ban if they've...
Hi, Scott.
We look like the Knights community cast right now.
Oh my god. That was the most monkey thing, that Knights broadcast.
No, they apologize. Did you see the Twitter post? Did you see the Twitter post? Did you see their Twitter post, John?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny. They were like, oh, well, they're no longer with us. I don't know how they did it, dude. I don't know how you get in on that.
How do you make through that? How do you like siphon your way in as prod and then do
dude,
that?
There was some like, yes, I am 25. Something like the McNasty like ID.
Oh my gosh.
So funny. But our operator phase, we're done. We don't really have too much to talk about. It's fairly standard. It's having a Maverick, a Thatcher, and then obviously on the defensive side, you're seeing that Kaidve taking off, which really helps with those hard walls, and then the Malusi, which is a great way and a great roamer. So yeah, the possibility of the roam that I talked about when you guys couldn't hear me will come to fruition. I'm not going to repeat myself either. So
No, that's weird. You should have just been able to hear us, simply put it. I was trying to make it like a funnier joke, but that was just like, that just seemed really like harsh.
It just seemed
So-
like, yeah, that just
It
seemed
just
like,
seemed mean. I'm sorry
Jeez,
about
man.
that.
I want a
okay.
formal apology. Not to me, though.
I will begin to type my letter now,
right,
mid-cast.
cool. The twit
I'm
longer
sure that's
is,
not
in
going to lead
fact,
into
coming
any
through.
problems. Anyways, what could have been a problem is maybe having to worry about those Valkyrie Black Eye cameras, especially since there was no IQ in selection, but luckily you get 6 picked off onto, I believe it was either a Mute or a Malusi. It was actually the Mute here for Caboose. Not a bad pick, especially when you already have a Mozzie. Those two can play in tandem really well, but I definitely would have been a much bigger fan of having the Valkyrie on the board. It's just such a nice way to have such versatile information, especially when you can play vertically pretty well on a site like Trophy. You can deny the plant using some sort of nitro cell or just some kill holes made by a shotgun, which we already have the Moss Build in hand by Undead King, so it wouldn't be that hard to actually go for that strategy at all.
So I have a question for you here, fellow. In terms of the operators that we're seeing on the board for the attack, what's the weirdest thing that you're seeing? Because I'm seeing a couple interesting setups that they could potentially bring, but what are you looking at right now?
I think for... Did you mention for the attack now? And I have to go into lower some stuff, unfortunately. Just trying to get all the issues sorted out. What did you mean for lineups there, Scott?
So we're seeing an Osa, right? One that hasn't necessarily been heavily picked, despite being allowed for a couple weeks now. We're seeing a Zero, which is not the most unpopular pick for this map. The information that can be gathered is extremely strong, but also bringing a Twitch on top of that. It seems like there's a bit too much information gathering potential for their side, and I just feel like they're lacking a true flank watch. Ancient Boot's going to have a lot of pressure on them to be able to hold that rear.
Yeah, normally you have the Nomad on the board instead. She's probably the best for flank watch. So you have to be much more proactive here for St. Ambrose, and they don't really have any genuine like main fragging role, no proper intel gathering. But hey, at least they still have the Zofia with the LMGE, so that's going to net them at least one kill. Terminal's going to fall pretty early on, and they also have this setup stacked near the back of Master, so things are relatively default for them. Not a big fan of that Osa shield. Yes, it does give you passive information, but really no sightline unless you go on the upside down repel to kill a player that is potentially getting a bit aggressive near the main doorway leading between Master and the site of Statuary. But other than that, it's simply just there to give off information, and that is going to mostly be it for our number one.
Well, we can already see the minute and a half has passed, and St. Ambrose only able to pick up one kill. Unfortunately, for the side of our ground, there is nothing available for him just yet. Heinz looking to use these shields to their advantage, but look at the heavy emphasis on this extension right now from the Rio Grande side. Azura's holding inside Master Bathroom, and Rooney can be quite dangerous. We're seeing that right now as... Unfortunately, Fleegs will be paying the price for trying to open up that corner window inside Master Bedroom. Heinz stepping up with the shield. This is why Osa is so strong, essentially the walking tank. But with the Surya Gate also being down in that doorway connecting over towards Astronomy, it does slow down the pace of St. Ambrose. And even though Heinz places the shield right here on the door connecting over towards the Master Bedroom, would have been more than likely forced to place it there as well, as it just would have been had to be cleared in the first place.
Yeah, that shield really doesn't give you any advantage at all. Actually forces you to remain stalwart inside of Master. If you had that placed on either the Astro doorway or even on the window of Astro, that would have been much more effective for gaining that map control, which is one thing that St. Ambrose is mildly lacking. They'll finally step inside of Statuary, and it looks like Ancient Boot actually gets rid of one. Here's a flank though by Caboose. That's the problem with having no Nomad on the board. If you do not have your 6th watch as effectively, Azura spots out one potentially, but no, they're gonna lose that fight against Ancient Boot, and now it's a 1 versus 3 post-plant situation here with Undead King trying to win out in the 1vx, but just cannot manage to get the job done. It's going to be Ancient Boot to get the final pick of the round, and St. Ambrose will still win the round outright, despite the fact they had a couple of issues with denying a flank and also having some weird utility placement as well.
It's fairly interesting. I want to harp on a few things, not to be like negative about it at all, but to kind of give a clue as to why we saw a couple mistakes there, especially there in the post plant, talking about that 1v3. Both players saw the other individual about 2 to 3 seconds before they actually took the shot and flicked back to that position to go for that gunfight. I think that we're seeing a... maybe it's not hesitation on the part of the players. Maybe it's just situational awareness needs to be a little bit more keyed up for them. And that can obviously be coming up with time and a little bit more, I guess, patience in the later stages of the games. Don't let yourself fall victim to, I guess, getting too greedy and or not... What's the term I want to look for here, John? There's a word that just is perfect for it.
Overzealous?
That's a good one. Yeah, we'll go with that one.
That's on Dallas.
There's patience is necessary, but at the same time, you do need to be ready for each and everything. So don't tunnel vision in, but at the same time, be ready to check where your crosshairs lie, because they passed over each other 2 times in that last fight.
Well, at least St. Ambrose still got the round in the pocket, and looks like Rio Grande are going to be opting to go for the exact same site with really no changes at the moment. They might try to have a bigger emphasis on that roam game, either that or fall back much earlier in the round, but having that mute jammer placed down, they might try to actually hold down the fort for just a little while longer, and the reinforcements placed as well, so they have to funnel much more into either Aviator or go all the way around into Bar. So it looks like they're actually going to try to spread themselves out in a more even manner rather than just trying to focus more heavily on the site itself.
Early game position for the St. Ambrose side is really just going to be gathering the intel because they're continuing to bring out an operator selection that really does facilitate a hefty amount of information. Talking about these Twitch drones, obviously had received that buff. They're a lot more mobile, a lot more agile. Talking as well, being able to send out those zero cams can also do a whole lot for your side. And then the biggest piece of information, at least in my mind, when it comes to dangerous positions to peek through, will be these OSA shields that allow for you to essentially set up a safety net for your side. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of explode them out. A nitro cell over the top or underneath them, wherever they're placed, could be dangerous, but at the same time, we're not really seeing a lot of that right now for the Argon side. We have a nitro cell that's already been sent. We have one still in the pocket of terminal, but beyond that, there's no impacts, and it's really just the same thing we saw last time around. It's a very extended presence towards the bathroom side, which is not an incorrect play there for Azura, but I feel like their fallback plan isn't necessarily as strong as it should be, and we saw that happen. We saw that fall last round.
Minute 40 on the board here. St. Ambrose, no first pick just yet. Still gathering some sort of map control. Looks like Hines is just kind of proxying around, trying to gather any information with that shield in front of their face, so they're not going to die early on. So not the worst position overall for St. Ambrose, but they aren't really in any kind of advantageous position. Really, neither is Rio Grande either. At least they haven't lost anybody. And actually get the first pick. The Nitro Cell Ajax will fall, so that Twitch drone is no longer on the board, but the only thing they could have really denied is maybe some ADS for being on the board and potentially breaking a mute jammer, depending on how far away that Twitch drone was away from the proxy of the jammer in the hands of Caboose.
Shots ringing out. You can see St. Ambrose side taking full advantage of this OSA shield, as Hines will be that forefront player. Playing as if they're Montaigne can kind of be strong, but still a nitro cell on the board that they have to be wary of, and it could definitely be something to fear, but Hines is still just holding strong. Looks like they were placing the shield in the doorway, connecting over towards the statuary side, but it's actually the first kill to be gathered for St. Ambrose underneath, as they'll take Ancient Boot through onto Azura, leading us to a 4-on-4. 35 seconds left. Nets fight going in towards the central staircase. Red being not just the color of the stairs, but the blood that's seeping out as Caboose finds one, refragged back, and his Ancient Boot for another. Now downed, with Terminal finding the kill with the Commando.
20 seconds left. Rio Grande actually have the man advantage here, and once again, St. Ambrose, they are just kind of trapped in a really awkward position. They might try to opt their way inside of just Statuary from hopping through that OSA shield. That's really their only point of contention for the time being. About 10 seconds left on the board. The Ace will try to swing in Fleur. They're not going to die out just yet, though. It's actually going to guarantee them the round win. Funny enough, everyone just kind of lined up and didn't play for time, and it allowed the attacking side of St. Ambrose just to get aggressive and simply win their ones. Great recovery by St. Ambrose, but you could have simply just played back and just denied a plant from occurring there, Rio Grande.
Think about what their problem was in round one, where they weren't aggressive enough in a lot of their positions. They tried to kind of do the opposite there in round two, and it bit them there. They need to find that medium ground, and if they do go back to the statuary side, and I don't think they should, it's something that they could kind of work on, try to progress through it, try to go through the stages as the round progresses. I just don't think that's a strong objective for them. I'd rather them see maybe the tertiary objective side of dining and kitchens, seeing if that would be a better position for them, because St. Ambrose is a team that isn't that aggressive. They're not that swift. They're playing with tempo, but it's a very measured tempo. It's the way that I'll phrase it, as they're not just rushing in. They're gathering tons of information, making full use of the utility that they are bringing to the table. I see a lot of weak links in terms of their flank watch, and as well as versatility multi-floor wise. So it's a very one-dimensional attack, but it is a very measured attack in the process. But Rio Grande, new objective, new round. And this one is a little bit easier to hold back on that extension, really only needing one person to step maybe towards the trophy side and go for a first frag. But we've seen how that's worked out, or maybe not how it's worked out these last two rounds. So maybe they just decide to sit up and maybe turtle up on the side.
I really do not like that shield, because you're basically fully committing someone to play there and to essentially die the way that shield is placed. I mean, there's just no comfortable way of sitting there without getting shot, because you could just have someone play near bot
Isn't this a Goyo
main.
shield, though?
And did they remove it though? I can't quite tell.
No, it's
Nope,
there.
the
Is
shield's
that a
still
Goyo
there.
shield? No, it's just a normal shield. I would
yeah, it's a plain
understand if
shield.
it's a Goyo and you could buy time, but if it's
Yeah,
not a
no.
Vulcan shield, there's no point. It's just, it's too dangerous. Maybe you make the attack scared to push stairs. Oh, maybe there's a guy behind it. There's really not. He's going to be hiding on the top part of the stairs. Yeah, John,
The way that shield is placed is just not helpful for the defensive side. And speaking of shields, Osa's still on the board, so that is at least one way to deny anyone from being instantly shot if they are going to play around that position of the main doorway leading into study side. This shield I don't hate, especially if you have ranged hard breach, because that double ups the safety net for your ace player to actually get a sightline opened up for your team. Vertical position gathered here by Azura, but their timing is just a little bit ineffective, so they're not going to be able to find anything just yet for the defensive side of Rio Grande. So still going to remain that 5 versus 5 with Trojan trying to maybe open up that part of the soft flooring to maybe catch Azura off guard, but only time will tell, as no first move has been made just yet by either team.
It's been like 3 seasons since I've seen that play there by Azura to use that floorboard to deny that main entrance door. It's interesting, but neither side's really able to find something off of it. The first frag will be in favor of the St. Ambrose side, recovering from what it was last time, but Ancient Boot able to find the first. Unfortunately, their teammate a Trojan will be felled, but Ancient Boots continuing to pick up the pace. A second one to their name. And now you've got a player down for the Rio Grande side. What started to look maybe a little bit better, instantaneously brought back into a poor state. So you're on the defense, a man down, and you're walking across the site. Mozzie out. Terminal. Felled. Hines with the kill, and is only 2, and one of them still on the first floor. Caboose has a Nitro and can deny the plant if they plant in that default spot, but St. Ambrose are just hunting for these kills. You can see it here with Ancient Boot once again with Caboose luckily finding the kill.
Ooh, and there goes Nitro Cell as well. Ajax will get downed, but because the points are not on during a competitive match, I don't think Caboose is actually aware of that, so that could be an easy revive, and then we'll be back in the man advantage here. But the Goyo has remained quite active on that roam game, and in just terms of general aggression, they're now trying to step up in towards study. So many active pings are flying in through, but no initial pick just yet, but they still have plenty of time to recover and redeem themselves, and they bring this into a direct 2 versus 2 potentially. Both Ajax and Fleegs are on very low HP. That could be a nice work of cleanup there. Hines now watching the flank. Undead will hold the fort in towards Hunting, gets rid of one. Caboose swings at just the right time, and now it's a 1 versus 2 with Fleegs in a very rough predicament, having to deal with a tag team by both the Goyo and Smoke, and really not a lot of seconds to spare. Just about 9 or so left on the board, and they'll have to make it fast. They're caught with the sprint out and the gun down, so it's going to be easy pickings there for Undead to get the final pick of the round and get the first round here for Rio Grande as well.
Talk about a absolute siege on the site. It was too slow. Talking about going through office. Just not having any flank coverage, which we talked about was the main problem for them last round, even though it ended up not being their undoing. They didn't keep an eye on where all the players were still remaining. They should have been able to drone out for a team that's bringing so much information, and it's still doing it as Ajax is now on the Flores, and instead of maybe going for that Twitch, instead of using that information to their advantage constantly throughout the round, even in the later stage of that round when there's only really 30 seconds left, there's still plenty of time for you to drone out and gather the intel. They just kind of bided their time, hoping that they'd see a player step out and then they'd be able to act off of it. And I just didn't like that level of gameplay. I think they need to be a bit more proactive instead of reactive and kind of adjust themselves accordingly as the round progresses onward.
Looks like we finally get to see Kitchen and Dining, one of your favorite sites to actually go on to for Villa, so that's at least a big smile on a couple of our faces.
I don't like this,
here.
This operator selection, though.
Yeah, you would have wanted to see a Captain and a Pulse. That's what you would have wanted to have seen, which those two operators are best for this site, at least in general. They aren't as good on Aviator or Trophy, but because you can just play directly in either Kitchen or Dining and gather a bunch of information with that cardiac sensor, it's not a bad idea to do that, especially if you bring a bunch of Nitro Cell. There's only 2 on the board here for Rio Grande, so it's not going to be that effective of a job if they want to only play for Nitros. They'll most likely have to hold that top floor for a very long amount of time, and only with about 1:30 or so left on the board, only then would they most likely be able to fall back, and they'd probably need to find some sort of pick as well to really solidify that they can get this 4th round in their back pocket rather than it happen the other way around here with St. Ambrose potentially taking a 3rd.
it really feels like these nitro cells are going to be used more on this first floor instead of trying to play against the second floor approach. But I think this is probably going to work out a little bit more than a lot of people would anticipate. But this is because St. Ambrose is playing from the first floor. They look to be proceeding through laundry. They could drop down and go through stock if they really wanted to. That pantry side's not a bad option, but it's an objective choice that's usually done in a full sprint, John, not necessarily one that's done with hesitation and kind of playing that patient game, and that's what St. Ambrose have been doing, and maybe a bit too much in some regards, but Ryo Grant still holding on strong. Azura, she's using the shield actually right outside laundry to make sure that the player of Hines, the Osa for the side of St. Ambrose, can't get much further. But the sightline's obviously an advantage for St. Ambrose, and that shield gone because of the Rotero Jones sent out by Ajax.
Yeah, thankfully, there was no mute jammer over in that direction. If it was, it could have been most likely just shot by somebody potentially. Who really knows? All that matters is that Azura will now have to fall back. That gains a small amount of map control in the pocket of St. Ambrose, but there is still plenty to do on their tally list. Most likely, one of those jobs being to possibly get control of Memo. Sorry, not Moto Run Clubhouse, at least yet. That might be in the pocket of Trojan or potentially Ancient Boost. And oh, no one checks out near red. The lack of proper droning on that top floor is actually going to be the main reason why we have St. Ambrose lose that first initial fight. Could be the mute at the top of red to actually get the first blood, favoring Rio Grande, as they are now in a pretty comfortable position overall. They know where most of the push is coming in through by St. Ambrose, and as they now deal with, I believe that was Azura, yes, pushing in from the backside, all they have to worry about now is laundry, as all three of the attackers are stacked up in that one part of the map.
One-dimensional approach, time in and time out. St. Ambrose are just shooting themselves in the foot, much like Terminal shooting Hines in the foot. This is the only thing visible at this point in time, and it's going to be something that they are going to struggle to get behind. There's still an ADS on the wall right there, if I'm not incorrect, and it's not been cleared, but it looks like Fleegs will go for the plant. This one will be guaranteed, post-plant situation ensured, and now Hines will have to play behind the shield quite aggressively. Ajax comes up with the kill through the floorboards that have actually been opened in that wall, and unfortunately, Hines gets a little bit too aggressive, and Quixie will finish the job where necessary. Player from up above, using the hatch inside Master Bedroom, they're looking to go for the post-plant. They're going to toss out, and for some reason, Fleeks is able to be allowed to walk up and find the player of Caboose, but no one can deny the plant defusal, and it'll be a defensive round win off of just what seemed like a not well-defended post-plant situation for St. Ambrose.
No, not at all, especially when you have only one player actually in the site. You cannot be playing that aggressively. I would have much rather seen Hines just keep holding down the fort behind that Oath shield and only need to swing if absolutely necessary. That Jaeger wasn't really instigating them at all, so just holding back and biting for that time, because now the diffuser timer is actually be favoring the attacker side rather than the other way around. That would have been a much better position overall, and also having someone maybe rotate around inside of Memo to have another sightline stacked up near Tetris would have been a much better idea, rather than having the rest of your team bait outside and wait for someone to overswing and try to net some sort of pick, which the defensive side really did not need to do in that predicament. I think we're heading back towards Trophy and Statuary now, probably the weakest site for Rio Grande so far in this first half, but they have been able to adapt over time, and they've been playing into their strengths relatively well, so hopefully they can keep up that momentum going in around number 5.
Do you think it would have been a smarter idea not just to play on the first floor only, but to use the second floor as well as taking advantage of Memo to cut down the player that was attempting to run towards the diffuser? Because you have to step towards the lunchbox. You have to go over there and get yourself a stack if you want to get the diffusal out. You can cut them down on the angle of approach for them, and we didn't see any of that, and I do think it wasn't actually that hard of a round to clean up for the Rio Grande side. But that was the last round. This one's the next, and we've seen how this objective has fared. It has been losses galore, the Rio Grande side, and I don't think this is one where we're really expecting much of a difference, because St. Ambrose were able to tune in a little bit to some of their problems we saw in round 1 to the difference to round 2, but Rio Grande obviously on a 2-round spree. There needs to be a swing round in favor for St. Ambrose if they want to be able to collect either 1 or 2 before that halftime switch, and they've got to start over on the defense.
I think St. Ambrose is on the same wavelength as we are, because they want to try to establish early control of this top floor. Looks like Hines is going to be going for the exact same shield placement that they were opting for last time around. Just trying to gather some proxy information, not really overextend their life just yet. First minute almost over and done with here, and St. Ambrose are still also opting to try to clear out this roam game early on in the round, because they know that the flank watch has been their biggest weakness, so better to not deal with any flank at all if they get the roamers over and done with pretty early into this 5th round. So it's going to be up to Ancient Boost and also Ancient Boot, pardon, also Trojan to try to make ends meet, either force the roam game to fall back in towards the site or try to get some sort of first pick to make it that 5vx favoring the attacking side.
I do like the Riot Grand side being aggressive on this extension and not just being the team that sits back in Aviation and maybe one towards Vault to play and wait kind of passively. I like their proactive approach to cutting this angle off as they try to step in from that balcony side. St. Ambrose, you have failed to keep your drone economy in solid state. I think just a moment ago we had 1 and 5 at a point. That's not exactly where you want to be, especially when that drone phase had just ended and you lost 4 drones in the process. That was a problem earlier because Terminal on the Mozzie actually managed to take a drone 2 times in a row in a round. I think that's one of the reasons why St. Ambrose are a bit hesitant to send it in for information, but you've got a lot of them and it's the single most important piece of utility and best piece of utility that anyone can have in this game. And you've got 2 in the pocket. You've got to be able to utilize those. If you can't, then you're failing to properly prepare yourself for success. But right now, look at the different approach they're taking. They have stepped away from that side of the map because they've already lost the player of Ancient Boot, and they're now starting to approach into the master bedroom side.
They look like they have a lot of openings to work off of. Finally, the Selmas will activate on towards the triple wall, so they could potentially try to pivy their way in towards the site, but I don't think it's even a crouchable, so they'd have to prone in through there or huck another explosive charge. Luckily, Fleegs is still 2 in the pocket, so that's not going to be that big of a challenge here for St. Ambrose, but what might be a challenge is Undead King just waiting in close quarters proximity with that shotgun. That could be a deadly piece of weaponry to have in that current position. Hyams now lose a bit more HP from the toxic canisters. Just about 15 seconds left on the board. St. Ambrose still have not been able to work a pick and are really just locked out of the site. I believe it was Quixie who got that first pick down. Goes Ajax. Caboose will follow suit, and here comes the rush in by Fleegs and also Hyams. We've seen them clutch out before, but that was only a 3 versus 2, not a 5 on 2, and yes, they may have found one, but the timer simply ran out, went to 0-0, and it will be a 3rd round now in a row for the defensive side as a win.
Yeah, I think Ragron has definitely swung things in their favor. Them taking their first round and in a way that kind of puts St. Ambrose on the back burner, especially when you talk about the ending that came through there for them with Caboose on the Goyo, which we're going to see once again for the Aviation in Games Room site. The Nitro Cell from below that got a DBNO. Didn't really collect for the kill, but that combo with Undead King inside Vault was a big swing round for them. And I think that's why we're seeing them start to separate the distance a little bit further. Their extensions applying pressure early. They're finding that first frag, and that's one of the big difference makers in these rounds. St. Ambrose has just been kind of struggling once they lose that one piece of utility, and we did see some glimpses there. And I say glimpses, it was very vague for the side of St. Ambrose of them trying to come in from more than one direction. We saw them trying to go in through that trophy window, just connecting outside of hunting, but why did we not see it successful? Because they had not actually managed to clear out the extension over towards the Aviation planes and Games Room side. A player standing and landing atop of red stairs handles the job. A quick spray down from Terminal with the K1A doesn't necessarily need to get the kill. Their teammate can do that as well if they even make it through that window, but it completely puts a stop on St. Ambrose and just lets that cushion that Ryan Grant created for themselves stay nice and fluffy and just gave them the opportunity to close it out with really no chance for St. Ambrose to step out safely.
We keep talking about the flank issues here and also that roam clear. It's been very lacking by St. Ambrose. Really wish we would have seen them opt to bring out the Nomad at some given point because we haven't had Ancient Boot utilize a lot of their Argus cameras nor their secondary hard breach. So genuinely speaking, there has been no significant reason to bring out the Sam Fisher in comparison to a Nomad or even a Gridlock, who is a pretty underrated operator, especially if you like going for those smoke plants. And there have been multiple occasions where St. Ambrose have set themselves up properly to go for that post-plant position. So I really wouldn't even mind seeing Gridlock here tonight on Villa, but unfortunately we're not going to be gifted that opportunity just yet until potentially the second half of Villa, perhaps. It looks like Azura's up to their same old intentions, trying to get some sort of early pick. Can their timing be better than the last time around? That's going to be the big question here for tonight, as we still haven't seen them find any pick just yet with that verticality, but they're still remaining patient, and they're hoping to find at least something here on round number 6.
Do you think Caboose's name is that because it's really boosting Rogrand's defensive prowess right now?
Maybe. A little bit of insight. Maybe. It's not going to be Caboose to get the first pick, unfortunately, but maybe.
You know, Let the other teammates get something of their own. It's Quixie and Terminal each for one onto Ajax and Hines respectfully. 3 players left for St. Ambrose, and their attempted push that's usually kind of relying on that shield up in the forefront is unfortunately cut down quickly, and there's the verticality coming through. It's not Asura, she's not going to be able to get it, but it's Undead King, the finishing player the last time we saw this objective, and now there's just 2. St. Ambrose in a very poor situation. They have just not brought forward, I guess, anything that is bringing value to this objective, as we saw them just walk into the study side with no defense, no coverage, and they lost 2, and they'd already lost 1 earlier.
Not really much you can do in a 2 versus 5 situation. Looks like Rio Grande are still in some pretty powerful positions too. The middle area of main stairs has not been dealt with just yet, and we have a wraparound by Trojan being attempted with only 50 seconds on the clock. It'll be a very hasty play towards the backside if they want to actually find any sort of pick perhaps, or really get anything done. It's a very long distance to trudge through, so I am not overly confident that St. Ambrose can bring back this round. Even if 2 of the main roamers here die, which we eventually see a Zero fall, unfortunately she'll not be long for this world, neither will be Terminal. It's still a man advantage, so my worst intentions here have actually come into fruition, but once again, it's still an advantage here for Rio Grande, and I don't think they're aware of Caboose's position. They're in a bit of a rat angle, gets rid of 1 and can now drop down the red stairs just to play passively. Fleegs is now in a do-or-die predicament. They'll get aggressive as Caboose will fall. Great pick by the ace, but it's still 1v2, and you only have 10 seconds to work with. It's not looking all that hopeful. They'll have to rush in against the smoke play. The Vulcan shield will now detonate, force them to plant behind that island, and Aviator and Quixie is there at the ready, wrapping around towards the skull doorway to get the job done. It's going to be a 4th round now in a row for Rio Grande to end out the first half on a pretty good manner.
Let's talk about Rio Grande's defensive setups in those rounds. And I'm not just talking about their utility placement. I'm talking about their transitions that they're making. You can think of it a little bit like a... anyone ever play sports when you were younger? John, I know that you were really big table, ping pong.
Yeah, tennis is a pretty big thing on Rhode Island. Yeah. I actually did, I did track and field, but
yeah,
chat doesn't clearly know that. They're not mind readers, which was the layup to my joke I was trying to make earlier, but I brutally failed that.
You're good. So playing as a person who played every sport imaginable because I was a strange kid and my parents needed me to burn energy because I was hyperactive, you're very used to seeing clipboards. You're very used to seeing Sharpies and Expo markers marking out the game plan and the strategy for whatever game you're trying to play. And in this sense, talk about the movement that was made by Rio Grande on that defense. When you did see the control that St. Ambrose attempted to employ towards Study and it falls, instead of seeing Rio Grande on the defense push in towards Study, they know that they already had that position locked down, and St. Ambrose were more than likely not going to play that one. So instead of reinforcing a position you already have control over, start to pad the areas that maybe you're lacking behind. That's where Caboose goes to the rat angle as you displayed it, as towards the landing, ready to drop down, and that's a very smart position because not only can you gather yourself a kill, but you could also make the great escape. It didn't last for much longer. Caboose unfortunately pulls out the nitro cell and pays the price, but it's still a position that Rio Grande put themselves in and they find success with it, and that is a solid performance position. Quixie on the flank as well, working down Classical, making the way down towards landing and then finding the last kill. It's the movement, the mobility, and the ability for Rio Grande to properly pivot in a smart way that I think is giving them a really solid start on that defense. And I think this is a side attack. It's even better if you're able to employ that mobility and work from more than one direction, which is what St. Ambrose just failed to do the entirety of that first half.
St. Ambrose, speaking of the devil, they are opting for a very anchor/denial-based comp position. They've got the Thunderbird to overheal their teammates, which can be great for going for multiple gunfights at different points of the round. They've got the castle to burn through some time and resources as well, and also the smoke and echo combination, so they're most likely opting just to set up quite heavily in towards the site and really not try to move that many muscles. The only problem with that is with their lineup here, they don't have anything to really hard counter the sledge or the florist, for example. So hard destruction, it's not going to be that much of a challenge because the grenades or a Rotaro drone can easily break those bandit batteries, which Trojan, they're not opting to go for any tricking. So this will be a pretty straightforward approach by Rio Grande. So with the triple wall being opened up and only having to deal with the anchor game, that is going to leave a lot of time to be left in the back pocket of Rio Grande to do whatever the heck they want in order to get this round in the bag as a victory. And well, they're going to start off with that grenade pick, something I was worrying about as Hines will fall. It's a beautiful way to open things up here for Rio Grande as they've got instant control of Asher.
I don't think there's any comparison right now between the differences of the attacking round of this objective of St. Ambrose or the difference in Rio Grande. Rio Grande have just put the hurt on early with great positioning and proper utility usage from below. Caboose doing 2 of those, and then obviously the nade follow through, but they actually have to finish off the rest of the round, and they've just tried to walk towards the side, and it hasn't necessarily worked out just yet. They've lost 2, but Caboose will still manage to break things even with a kill back the other direction. Caboose trying to work in from Astronomy. That soft wall connecting on the west wall will try to make things easier and utilizing it to their own advantage. Headshot kill onto Fleeks. 2 players left standing. A shield makes things hard, but Caboose will walk on by, using the gumball machine to their own advantage in this position, and Terminal will go for the plant. This one a bit in the open, and we could see Ajax pursue maybe for the kill, but some great coverage being employed here by the player of Caboose, and they're going to go on the rampage they so desire. 3K to their name. Nitrocell finding no impact in the process, and Caboose now forced to reload that 300-round gun. It's not actually, but it sure does feel that way now, doesn't it, John? And you're forced into a post-plant and a 1-on-3 Trojan with only an an MP7 left to deal with the opposing 3 players.
And numbers can be quite hard. It's also very hard to win a 1vx no matter how you put it. Unless it's a direct 1v1 perhaps, but even in the post plant, the attackers will always favor that.
1v0?
Heading into we have seen 1v0 a lot in the round things because Ubisoft apparently has troubles with counting. I know I do as well. So it happens. Anyways, Rio Grande, despite the fact they won the round, I feel like they jumped the gun. They wanted instant Astro control. I don't blame them. They killed Smoke, and clearly they didn't want anybody to reclaim that position, but they only had their sights locked in at the back of Astro. If they waited about 10 to 20 more seconds, that would have given somebody time to rotate into the side of Master to get some sight lines gathered towards Statuary, which would have been the hardest thing to deal with when you're going in for a trophy plant. And then also maybe having someone go towards Red Stairs to also double down on both trophy and Statuary at the exact same time. So despite the fact that we had Rio Grande win out that round, they still could have performed much better. And St. Ambrose, they really did return the favor in terms of putting the smackdown on in that round, but only towards the mid game. Eventually they ended up starting to fall because the LMGE is just way too suppressive put in the right hands. It was still a round win at the end of the day for Rio Grande, but at least St. Ambrose tried to stop that push from happening towards Astro.
I just really loved the go-in strategy from Rio Grande. I don't really know how to phrase it. I know how to phrase it in Valorant. You just talk about their default entry, but I loved what Caboose did in that round. Goes down below, works their way through, and is able to clear out the floorboards below, getting rid of the bandit batteries, which are typically Kaid Electroclaws, obviously having been banned out, not going to be in play, and they don't really need to do much more beyond that. That applies pressure on a St. Ambrose, and they go, oh no, that's a hard wall that can now be breached. We don't have anything to deny that, and so their eyes are looking in that direction, and instead of pondering that side, Rio Grande goes, okay, we're going to work up through Astronomy, and then once again, Caboose down below, opens the floorboard behind, what's technically to the left of the actual desk in Astronomy, and combos in with a nade of their teammate to just wombo combo out the St. Ambrose defense in Astronomy, which then just allows Rio Grande to just walk in there and start to progress towards the site. And like you said, we saw a clapback from St. Ambrose in the middle stages of the round, but the damage was done, and I think the pillars of the St. Ambrose defense got felled first. That first position talking about inside of Astronomy, and then Caboose able to find another on top of it as they were holding tight corner inside Trophy. You lose those, and now you're just kind of leaving to what I would essentially call the stragglers on those sites, the players that are working initially. Their main goal in these rounds is a different job than what those 2 main pillars were doing, and then Rio Grande just took advantage of that.
Wait, MaXD is on his main account for observing? I have
That's
not
so
seen that.
weird.
I have not seen that in a very long time. He might have been on his main account actually for another match I ended up casting with him observing the other day, but I cannot quite recall. You know, that's actually a really interesting pick by Hines, I'm not going to lie. I would have preferred to have seen probably the Bandit 6 picked off of that, or maybe anything but the Smoke, because that is probably your best denial you have. But Mira, you do not see that really all that often, to be honest, when you are playing on Villa. I think she can be dealt with pretty effectively so long as you have someone playing for vertical, especially on Villa, where a lot of the flooring is in fact soft. But if that never happens, and if we see another tunnel vision-esque setup by Rio Grande, which we did kind of see that be implemented last round, then we could actually see Hines flourish on that Mira pick. So big fan, especially since you don't get to see it every day, and it is still an option that can really benefit you when you like to be a very anchor assertive team, which again, that's right up the alley of St. Ambrose so far.
One thing I kind of want to harp on a little bit is the lineups that we have not been seeing from St. Ambrose on the defense. They're pillar players that I kind of brought to the table last round that didn't survive. I didn't like where they were positioning themselves. Rio Grande on the defense, we're talking a little bit about what Azura was doing. She was playing very aggressive inside of that master bathroom side. She wasn't staying back and turtling like you had mentioned earlier. I think that St. Ambrose were just too defensive, and Rio Grande realized that because they were properly droning and had really strong coordination with their entry players to supply information to them with that wombo combo of having a droner and your main entry walk into the site and contest. And they just paid the price according to that. So I think St. Ambrose can't be allowed by themselves to sit on site. They need to kind of extend at least a little bit, maybe not to go for the kill, but to be a threat later in the round as the round progresses.
Say, honestly, in terms of team composition, I'll kind of tie back to Rio Grande. You mentioned Azura. I feel like she'd be much more effective on like a secondary entry role because she does play very aggressively, yet she is on like a hard flex role, and that was probably one of the positions that was a bit off for both St. Ambrose and Rio Grande, so maybe some food for thought we could probably debacle later on, but that's not going to be all that important as of now. Still having that IQ is going to be massive because that hard counters the Yokai, it hard counters Bandit Battery, especially with that soft flooring, and once again, I'll tie back into the mirror. So because we have Rio Grande actually dotting their I's and crossing their T's, they could actually do a very good job of pretty much hard countering this heavy anchor game performed by St. Ambrose, so long as they pick up the pace, because they haven't gotten a lot of map control established, nor they haven't really done a lot in terms of really anything except a bit of hard destruction, but that's only a single sightline. You'll probably need several in order to attack Aviator and Bar much more effectively.
You talked about really liking that Mira pick by Heinz, kind of being that tempo changer, maybe, kind of being a switch up. Notice how late that Heinz employed that actual Black Mira on that wall next to Bar, connecting to Study.
Pocket.
It was strange to see how late they did that. Maybe it's just like a boom, gotcha, look what we have. And I think it maybe worked because notice how hesitant Rio Grande are being right now. They've gained control over towards top of main stairs, though. So, I mean, they're looking at this position and going, okay, we've got an entry point. Azura now using that aggression that you previously mentioned. She will find herself the opportunity to remove out that castle barricade placed. And Nitrocell visibly spotted by Quixie and knows that they can't necessarily push, but Ajax, the player lying prone behind a chair, will still manage to go for the refrag and actually clutch up. A Caboose to LMGE in hand takes off Heinz, a second player falling. It's Fleegs, and Ajax pays the price from Azura's aggression on top of it all. Undead with the plant. Azura being suppressed down in the background, and it's just Ancient Boost less. It's that MP5 SD. A very silent weapon, but just absolutely deadly. There's no comparison when considering that option. An Ancient Boot may have that intel through those Black Mirrors, but you're feeling the pressure to walk away. Goes for the shot, misses. The headshot still finds the kill. A 3v1 in Ancient Boot's position entirely given away, and Caboose will be the player to clean up for. I believe they're 3k in that round on top of it, but to finish the round off for another win for them.
And this time around, we actually had Rio Grande approach from more than one area. We had Azura. She was holding down most of the assault up in towards 90 hallway, got a pick, and then gave off information. Oh, hey, the last player is inside a bar. There's no rotate hole. They have to go through hunting or go out around outside the site. So good stuff done there. And Caboose still being that main fragger, just simply shooting people as Zofia. I mean, you don't really need to overly explain that one, to be honest. So, hey, everyone doing their job at just the right time. And I wish I could have said the same for St. Ambrose. They had no rotation hole made, so their mobility between sites was very choppy. And also, if you're going to try to save a mirror window like that, I probably would have preferred to have one put, near that connecting wall into sight, because you can play behind that mirror window and then toss a nitro cell when you know they're going for a plant. And that's a very easy way to deny default and just general site presence as well. But, that's something you can just try to implement later on when you kind of strat into your matches. And it's also kind of hard to properly strat for Mira from time to time because she just isn't in play. She is one of the most banned defenders in the current meta. So, if you're not that comfortable on Mira and you kind of bring her out because you know how strong she can be, it can catch you off guard. So I guess I'll play devil's advocate in that avenue. And it looks like we're not going to have St. Ambrose rock that Mira a second time in a row. So that could have potentially been the case here, Scott.
Do you think it's kind of the same thing with Thatcher? Just nobody really knows how to implement him when he's left unbanned. Some teams just don't really have the strategies. They say, oh, Thatcher's gone. Let's just use those EMPs willy-nilly. That was a huge problem I was noticing while casting collegiate last semester. Was Thatcher would get left up because there are just some maps where it's not necessary, and teams would pick him up, and there's no need to because he's left unbanned because he's not necessary. So it just doesn't feel like people are using it necessarily in the right manner. But this is match point for Riot Grant, and to be honest here, fellow, it has definitely been their game ever since round 3, so to say. It's really reminded me of a Valorant game, not just because I've had to watch Valorant matches this entire week so far, but also because I have VOD reviewed 30 hours already. St. Ambrose take the first 2. That's very reminiscent of Valorant, and then the game has entirely just swung back in favor of Riot Grant from that point onwards, and they are riding that high, so to say, of their very successful flurry spree around wins.
So I'm actually going to go and wonder whose map pick this actually was. I'll probably look at that in a little while, but anyways, I once again am a bit upset that at least St. Ambrose are going on that heavy anchor game because it is allowing a lot to be done pretty early on for Rio Grande. They already broke a mute jammer and a bandit battery, I believe, near triple wall, so excuse me, they could opt to actually get one of the main walls opened on up, and technically there is a sight line where they could shoot Ancient Boot if they get that far right wall opened up. That is very iffy, though. They might try to wait a few more seconds and have that next bandit battery destroyed from underneath. A grenade got tossed out by Quixie, and that's going to bring down Hines to very low HP, but St. Ambrose, they still find the first pick. Fleegs will now get rid of Terminal, but it's not the end of the world. There's still one nade in pocket, and there are those Rotero drones, so there's still plenty of utility on the board to A, break shields, and B, potentially flush out players, as a second grenade gets tossed by the sledge that's now going to light up Ajax, but thankfully there could still be a couple of Thunderbird Kona stations out on the site to heal up both Hines and Ajax, maybe put them back in another fight and not have them in a disadvantageous position.
Notice the fact that the turtle strategy has been employed by actually hard reinforcing the entire wall leading over towards Trophy. It's just such an interesting play. They know that that was a weak point for them last time Riot Grande pushed this objective. Getting and clearing Astronomy was so swift for them that St. Ambrose was saying, we're not going to work that way. And I do like seeing that. I like seeing progression in this map. I like seeing adaptation, because if St. Ambrose can adopt what they're lacking and realize that as the round progresses, then they'll be in a much better position to contend at least on map 2. And yes, indeed, this is Riot Grande's map pick, so maybe that's why we're seeing the way it go down. But Azura, she'll manage to find one. DB Ode, though, but still will not be the next to fall as Caboose tries to walk in through the window, and Hines will make them pay the price accordingly. It looks like Azura will be able to be picked up, but the player that's going for it unfortunately pays the price as Fleegs gets the headshot kill, and Undead King is essentially the only player left standing now in a 1v4. It looks like St. Ambrose's turtle strategy has unfortunately kind of been the kryptonite for the Riot Grande side, as making Riot Grande play at their tempo has really set them off and made them uncomfortable, so to say. They just didn't look like the Riot Grande from the previous few rounds.
Not in the slightest. I think for that round in particular, if we had something like a buck on the board instead, I feel like Riot Grande could have really just pummeled St. Ambrose there, because there's a lot of soft flooring you can play with in both Trophy and Statuary, and we saw just a complete turtle by St. Ambrose. They did not want to extend on a single bit of the map, which is the exact opposite of what you should be doing, because now Riot Grande, they only need to worry about 2 parts of the map, Trophy and Statuary. That's it. They don't have to take forever clearing out anyone playing in the basement, because you can be very proactive on the bottom floor on a map like Villa because of all those stairways you can rotate around, or even the middle floor as well for that said vertical play. Literally nothing, not even a mild extension on the top floor, just the 2 bomb sites. So if they were just a bit faster on their approach and have once again been able to set everyone up in proper positions to deny that anchor game, they would have had much smoother sailing moving into that potential last round. It is still match point favoring Riot Grande, so it's not that concerning for them. They have a couple of rounds to bleed away, and we're heading back in towards Aviator, which was again a pretty rough round overall for St. Ambrose, and it looks like they're bringing out the exact same composition. So if we don't see any proactivity early on in this 10th round for St. Ambrose, this could be the final round for them in play for Villa.
Let's take a note of what you typically would see on this objective. Maybe more than one shield in some ways, as you would like to sit a player maybe near Lamplight, maybe have some control over Classical. Not really a shield being placed in 90, but some people do place a shield actually in the doorway of Classical on that northern side, northern trim of that door on this outside hall. But we're only seeing one And from the looks of things, this could be the one that we do see get planted. Thank you very much, Max. I love you to absolute death and beyond for showing this spot that I'm talking about. I think that shield is not placed where we would want to see it. This one's placed for Ajax to sit behind the hard wall on the aviation side. This just seems like an unnecessary position. It's weird, as you can just stay behind the couch and be totally unseen. And Ajax even collected a kill last time around off that point. Why need the shield? Why have to expend that very important piece of utility to do what essentially can be done for free?
I am not really that sure either, especially since you're basically trapped once they open up that double wall in any way, shape, or form. You cannot move. There is just simply no getting around it. If someone overextends and they push on you, you're going to die. Having that shield broken, though, that could actually allow Ajax to get out quicker, and that's exactly what happened. So a bit of an oversight there by Rio Grande, allowing Ajax to live to tail the tail and maybe get a bit aggressive and swing on out, find some sort of pick, and then heal themselves back up to higher HP with those Kona stations once again. But only time will tell, as no one's gotten too aggressive just yet. It's still just the default stuff by Rio Grande, but hey, we saw Ajax finally go for some sort of swing, but it's not going to net them anything, as they will fall by the hands of Terminal and that Ayana.
No, the mirror window that was placed, finally being placed on the wall, is still up, but they've used quite successfully Asoma to at least get one spot. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to do much more. Heinz gets the frag, and Undead King stepping out into study, but Leagues is the next person to fall, and it's by the hands of Rio Grande. Shots going towards Vault. They've cleared off the top section. This allows them to throw things over, making that position harder to sit within for the St. Ambrose side. They're not really done a great job of denying any of these hard wall breaches. The Mute Jammers being about the only thing they could do. But it's still a two-player advantage in favor of Rio Grande here at map point. Shots connecting. Quixie, the opposing player inside of Vault. Quixie getting the worst end of the situation. Now at about 4 HP. Heinz with a Vector cuts down Caboose quite swiftly. And then Nitro's being tossed. This one narrowly missing 2 targets in an unfortunate time. And think about the information we saw gathered at the beginning of this round with that Gemini Replicator essentially free on the board. And now they're struggling to get to the rest of the site. Ancient Boot losing the fight to Quixie, who was already low. Heinz with the Vector cuts another one. Has to swing to the third, but Terminal finally finishing off this map in favor of Rio Grande. There was a lot of problems for them on that attack. St. Ambrose did put up a solid front only in the late stages of that round, though.
Very close call at the end. Luckily, though, it was just a simple isolation trick, and having the man advantage, it's not going to be that big of a concern. Heinz did give a very valiant effort, though. I honestly thought they were going to end up winning out that engagement and maybe giving Santos another round to spare here on Villa, but unfortunately, that will not be the case. But hey, there were a couple of glimpses of actual prosperity there by St. Ambrose, so hopefully on their own map pick, they can actually bring things back a bit closer. Also, I like your new background, Scott. It's the first time I've been able to see it because I didn't get any, what do you call it? I didn't get any, no green screen, just actual brick.
No, that is a green screen.
Oh, my bad.
Green screen.
I thought you were going to get up and like kick it down.
You can't see the felt on it, you know. Maybe I'll take some photo shoot pictures later, and I'll just like lean against it like.
That'd be kind of clean. That would actually be really clean. You get like a legitimate camera. That would be like your new headshot.
That is actually that is in the books actually to update to a DSLR. I mean, my camera quality looks nice here. Feel free to tell me if it doesn't.
I agree. I think it looks good. DSLR
proper
cameras,
lighting and a good background
so.
really helps with that one. But I want to harp on something. Notice at the beginning round, I kind of called it for a second. The Gemini Replicator we saw be utilized. It reminds me of that movie, The Bedtime Stories, with like Adam Sandler, where he's like, his stories turn into reality in like somewhere or another, and he's like, I want a Ferrari for free, and he goes, for free. And I was like, how much information do you want? All of it. Okay, how much? Free? All of it. Literally, the Gemini Replicator did not get cleared. It was just wasn't done correctly, in my opinion. It was just too much, and that was one of the big problems for St. Ambrose, why they had such a troubling start. The return did come through, but off of really nice placements for Crosshair and really just kind of stuck in a funnel for the rest of Rio Grande. But they dealt with it pretty swiftly once the fights did happen to reveal the location of the few remaining St. Ambrose players.
And unfortunately, with all that being said, we'll go into a quick little break and be back in just a while to get Matter 2 underway. So stick around for more NECC action, as we will be back in just a few short moments to get the rest of this best of 3 over and underway.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Man Steel called Cringe and my oh-so-handsome duo fellow, a.k.a. Fellow-caster, a.k.a. John. He hasn't had anyone call him cringe besides myself. But we've got ourselves map 2, and I think it's pretty much ready to go, so we'll get to it fairly quickly. But, John, why don't you tell us what we're expected to see here?
Man, oh man, it's going to be Clubhouse. I am hoping for St. Ambrose that maybe we've had Chase be able to, talk to them just a little bit beforehand. He was watching the stream pretty proactively, so maybe he was able to, what was that, Scott?
I don't think he's the R6 coach.
I know he's like the general guy for St. Ambrose, so maybe just talking to them a little bit, just giving them some sort of information going in. I'm hoping that maybe that could let St. Ambrose kind of get the at least the acknowledgement that they should be try to go for more of like a roam-based gameplay, because having just to anchor all the time, especially on a map like Clubhouse, it's just not a good idea. You have so much of the building to play with. Why not at least give it a good attempt? There are some good anchor strats you can do, especially on the basement floor, but that is about it. So far in terms of bans, we've got the Thatcher followed up, and now the Ace, which is a pretty uncommon ban in terms of hard destruction here for Clubhouse, but not horrible. I just think that there's better options like either the Habana or the Maverick.
I do want to give some. How do I phrase this?
Some props.
Villa is a map that you don't necessarily have to have the biggest roam, right? Despite it being huge, you don't have to be roaming. It's typically just a small extension or a medium-sized extension. You can't have a roamer on the first floor. We see it all the time, being able to prowl around in mud and try to swing in through these dining room sections and catch these attacking players. But I can see why St. Ambrose maybe thought we can sit on site and do fine. This map, especially since this is St. Ambrose's pick, if they still turtle up, I just don't think this is a team that has strats that are written down and that they're able to pull out. This may just be a team that's playing here and has ranked experience and is working together. And if that's the case, good on you guys. Having fun with R6, I couldn't do it. But but I will recommend winning is also really fun. Not that I ever do that either. Let me correct that. You guys could do pretty darn good with some strategies. Ancient Boot did a really good job anchoring previously that we saw. Ancient Boot also found a lot of really good kills. Heinz had a pretty good idea on the attack using Osa and trying to utilize that for information. And y'all had some glimpses of success for the attack, especially when you guys got that plant down inside dining and kitchen. It wasn't really in a good spot. Your post plant was what was poor in that position, but I didn't really mind what I saw there. It's just defensively, I'm seeing a really strong dissonance for the way that you should be playing. And this objective is one that is kind of worrying me, especially considering the kind of what I would consider age of the strategies I saw employed on map 1. They're kind of like a season, 2 seasons, even 3 seasons ago kind of age, in my opinion. This objective hasn't been good for 2 seasons. So I would like to see something up to date, a strat book dating in 2022 maybe.
Especially since it's normally the Maverick that is almost always on the board. Much more teams favor having the Habana banned because she is good on pretty much any site. Ranged hard breach is pretty much the best thing to have in the game currently. It's like the newest sliced bread for any team. So she's normally banned more in comparison to the Maverick. So getting the plat wall opened up is the most straightforward thing you can do for a coordinated team. And then all you have to do after that is you get control of garage in some sample, and then you go into sight. It's really that straightforward when you're attacking CCTV, especially when there's a Capitao on the board and Wamai has been banned. He can help clear out rafters in a instant. So in the first minute of the round, you could actually go for a site execute depending on how well you play into your strengths. And, well, we're not going to see a push immediately in towards the site by Rio Grande. At least they will set themselves up to get that plat wall opened up and still find the first 2 opening picks as Caboose, and Azura get 2 picks for themselves, essentially. 5-on-3 off the rip.
I really like the choice of the Capitao as well. It's something that really can dominate in terms of garage pushes, as well as just being able to cut down sight lines and use those asphyxiation bolts and fire bolts to great success. But ultimately, beyond that, you're kind of at a point where if you've already used that utility, you may struggle, but the pocket hard breach could also work even with sightline in that hard wall in between. But notice, bolts could be sent in a moment here by Azura. She has the utility in the pocket. I want to see Fleegs take a step back. I want to see Fleegs rotate underneath and not just die by Azura's hand, which is what we're seeing. So, just play smarter, in my opinion. Right now, St. Ambrose is turtling up, has unfortunately caught them to be stuck in their own shell. Undead King with the plant, it will be guaranteed. Quixie with the kill. Ancient Boots, the last player left standing, and a suppressed weapon on top of it. Maybe he can stealth his way through this one. Hear the shots ringing out, maybe not so loudly, with the MP5 SD being the gun of choice. But you're still seeing a tough spot to go through. 3 players left to cut down. Quixie may be already fairly low, but you can do see that those Finka boosts are available. Just kind of need to wait for their cooldown. Does not seem to be a big deal, though. Goes for the kill of the player outside on that mezzanine. Does not seem to make a huge deal. It'll be the player of Quixie off the board. Secondary kill gathered by Ancient Boots. But Undead managing to save their life. The team from a very weird spot there.
I think Quixie tried going for a knife kill onto Ancient Boot, and then that almost allowed Ancient Boot to actually clutch that, because for Undead King, that's like the most awkward spot to play in as a Thermite, was just prone in the middle of plat wall, no cover in sight. Against a bearing 9, if you can just hold down the mouse well enough, it shoots like a water hose. It's a pretty good secondary weapon, in my personal opinion. And the recoil, if you play a lot of Habana and Echo, it's honestly not that bad in comparison to other guns. So, pick your poison, I suppose. Looks like we're not going to have Echo in pick for a second time. It'll be a different intel gatherer, this time the Valkyrie. So maybe we can have some more proactivity, which I have been harping on for St. Ambrose so many times. You have been as well. And that can be a great way to start things off on the right foot, is having those black eye cameras give you information up and towards, for example, kitchen. You can maybe go for a nitro cell kill or impact trick, just a bit easier knowing what exactly is on the board in terms of hard destruction. So huge fan of that pick, and you already have plenty of other pieces of denial. I don't feel like you're going to need both the smoke and echo, especially for this site in particular. Just feels like a bit of overkill, and also might be overkill to triple reinforce that entire back wall from blue, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose.
Okay, John. What's the odds we see a tunnel push?
I don't know. It actually could be pretty high, because we've got Thermite and Maverick. I don't know how many people are spawning over in construction. That'll be the biggest. They drove out dirt. No, they're gonna do it. They're doing it.
I've been saying it. This is a team that's looked at some of the older strategies and has at least said, hey, let's try to replicate these. They need to update the book. Come on, the strap book. If your notebook on the front still says middle school on it from your glory days back 6 years ago, then maybe the strap book's a little outdated, and that's what we're seeing right now. Dirt's not a bad play, so to say, but it is one that is not really heavily utilized today, and this could be something that catches St. Ambrose offside, but I think their strap book's just as dated in regards to what we saw from them previously, so maybe they could actually hold this one out. As you can see, Ajax in a pretty interesting spot, but the Kona station may actually eat a couple shots and maybe eat one of their own in the process. It looks like a slower start here from Rio Grande, though. Once they can gather the information and facilitate a push, they'll be in a much better spot. But look at the intel they're able to gather. It is miles ahead of what we were expecting, and they are looking to use that firebolt to great success. Doesn't seem to do much. It's actually the smoke bolt. They're going to go ahead and cut down sight lines to apply pressure in the opposing direction.
I really don't feel... There was no way that the Capitao Bolt ADS is like that zoomed in last time I've used him, but it has been a little while, I suppose. Looks like St. Ambrose this time around will actually get the first blood here, but the positioning here by Rio Grande is not that bad. We've got Undead King going around to flank about near blue, which with the case in your back pocket is a bit questionable, but it might be okay because you've got some backup here by Caboose. The leg is spotted here by Quixie, and Ajax will eventually fall. There's the great equalizer that Rio Grande desperately needed, and now they could potentially opt to head in towards the B bomb site, maybe go for a plant potentially as well, depending on how well this coverage can be. Quixie now falls. There could be a refrag potentially as Hines is receiving a bit of pressure towards him from the site itself, but he'll still be able to be in a pretty comfortable position overall because he has those toxic smokes to keep his opponents at bay, allowing Fleegs to step up, gets rid of Caboose. Plant may be going down, but the man advantage is heavily favoring St. Ambrose, so they could retake the site pretty effectively despite the fact the case has been fully confirmed by Rio Grande.
Keep in mind, they hard reinforced, triple reinforced the 3 walls connecting over towards Steining. That is probably the main reason why we're seeing them struggle now to get over towards this diffuser, having to now get through terminal, hanging out inside blue. This could be a very important round to try to hold on to for St. Ambrose, and they can't be allowed to struggle this much if they've got 3 players, 1 at a time, 4. But they'll manage to get the job done. Ancient Boot will give the boot, so to say, to Terminal, passing the Pokeball on over and, well, choosing the afterlife for the player on the side of Rio Grande, and it will, in fact, be a St. Ambrose round win. John, what do you think we'll see this time around? The defensive round win, they have to return somewhere, and if we do see Jim...
CCTV.
I hope it's not CCTV. Please don't be CCTV.
It's gonna... We'll have to... Oh, no, okay, it's Jim. For now.
It's Jim. If we see this Jim... I think we are going to see Jim. I think that will be stuck. If we do, in fact, see the Jim go through, we're not going to see an SSG-style roam. That's not happening.
I'm not... Yeah, I don't think we'll have any kind of heavy roam game happen. Maybe by Rio Grande
as well.
Later?
Probably. I don't know. When did SSG's roam get popularized? How many seasons ago was that? Because if it's more than 3
now, because that's when like Mute and Mozzie were a thing. Because originally it was like Castle Legion, Mute, Mozzie, and maybe like a Vigil. I think that was like the go-to pick for SSG back in the day. So it's been popular for like a couple of years now. I think popular since like 2-3 SIs ago. So, you know, Rome extending on Clubhouse, that's nothing new. It's a map that hasn't changed all that much, despite the fact in the comp pool it has received the most amount of reworks, which is 2, in case any of you are wondering. So I would hope there'd be some sort of extension implemented here by St. Ambrose, but we have seen that not happen at all. The only kind of extension we have had is like Echo roaming in no man's land because they want to try to utilize their yokais without getting shot, and also one defender in Rafters with no rotate hole to help them escape Rafters, so they were playing there to die, which is not a good thing to get used to. So I am in terms of like composition and like player positioning, I'm not that hopeful here for St. Ambrose, but they have the right tools if they wanted to extend. I just don't know if they will.
I'm trying to remember. No, Mira is allowed, and yet if Mira is allowed on this map, typically you do see a Mira being employed on this objective. She's pretty darn strong with the Black Mirrors, talking about playing 1 to deny Jacuzzi wall. She can also put 1 inside a vault, which is a good way to stop that main entrance, talking through construction. There's a lot to be said that we're not seeing that get picked. That we're seeing the ban phase went for Wamai and Kaid. I get the Kaid a little bit because it can be really annoying to deal with the utility inside Garage from placing those and, you know, Kaid tricking out the Rafters. Wamai? They really, both sides really don't want to have to deal with the Rafters play. But think about it for Rio Grande. They just walked through Rafters and Garage. They did not struggle whatsoever. So
They just like Wamai.
They just
or,
like Wamai.
Pardon me, like Capitao. They don't like Wamai. They hate Wamai.
There you go.
They hate Wamai.
Wamai haters. Wamai haters. Not Shaft.
Agreed. +1. Worst meta I have seen.
A utility consumption simulator
Util meta
101.
cringe, lion and like Ying meta based. That
You know
is
what's
just
weird? We're not seeing shield consumption simulator. I thought for sure with the age
No,
of some of these
we are
strats
not.
that we would see that. No Goyo. Interesting. But we do still have 2 shields. That's more than St. Ambrose brought on the defense. On the first map, I guess.
2 is not bad at all. I gotta admit, you could bring out much more though, especially when you are substituting off of not having Lamai on the board. Well, there goes one of your many shields. It was going to be utilized to try to stop anyone from breaking the mute jammer from the gym window. Instead, you normally put a castle barricade there, and normally you don't put a smoke so close to a drone hole, which normally has a bunch of nades get flung through it, so he will now get downed, and maybe, depending on how close he is, that thermite charge can actually kill him. That won't be the case, but Terminal just spots out Hines bleeding out on the ground and will put him out of his misery, so an early pick for Rio Grande, as they were kind of gifted that, unfortunately, and no longer those smoke grenades will be on the board for St. Ambrose.
So, St. Ambrose losing that shield early was not just annoying for their defensive setup because they kind of lose that foothold that they can have in that hall, but it also kind of makes it difficult to sit inside of gym, and so the player that they were kind of sitting pretty with, Ancient Boot, is unfortunately kind of forced to flush away and can't really watch their rear and the window of gym side. But I think most importantly right now, the dangers on Fleeks, who currently sitting in Logi and towards that vault side with no mirror window and no real great escape. You're just kind of pinned between a rock and hard place. Azura has the coverage inside hall, can easily catch you on that door. Terminal's watching the opposing side, having stepped in from rafters, and Terminal will continue to put the damage out. There's Ancient Boot I was talking about towards the gym side, off the board, and just 2 players left standing. Caboose trying to work in from Logi and will actually find the kill, and a Fleek still trapped inside of Vault. And last player standing will be inside of Bathroom. Maybe just trying to take a quick bio break. We can understand that one, but unfortunately the break is probably their skull on the pavement with that shot going forward, and crack, there goes the head. An easier round, maybe, than the last one, as Rio Grande kind of struggled in the later stages. A proper setup in round 2, but round 3 just was a much easier situation for them, as they just kind of picked apart St. Ambrose's turtled up defense.
I think they've realized now that St. Ambrose, they're not big fans of roaming, so they go for like the most direct approach first and foremost. They got Jacuzzi Wall opened up, which netted them a very early kill, which probably should not have happened. And then they didn't just complete tunnel vision on one area. No. They still went around. They had Terminal drop from Logi, I believe that was, but he was in some other part of the map and was getting kills, which really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. They had more than one avenue of approach, and that was all they needed. It was a 1v5, and even though they lost one player that round, that gave them information that, hey, Mute is stuck in Bathroom. There is no rotate to go around, and we can just get the plant down. There's literally nothing they can do. So good stuff so far by Rio Grande still at the end of the day. And they're now going to be able to re-attack CCTV room and also cache, which again, no rotate hole being made just yet. This could still be a very straightforward way of just instantly opening up plat wall and then getting Raptors control and really not having a lot to deny any kind of plant. What I would like to see is some sort of verticality. Oh yeah, now your player in Raptors will most likely be here just to die with that shield. They are giving up half of Raptors because of that deployable shield. You have to vault around it, which drops your gun down. So very, very odd. But I think Hines is at least making some sort of kill holes for the feet. So that's at least better than nothing, I suppose, Scott.
How do you feel about Azumi, John?
Wait, Azura?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, new operator.
Oh, Azumi. Oh, she's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Have you seen the new meta for Raptors up there?
Oh my god, it is so funny.
You can have Momai sit up there
not
forever.
Gonna keep that in the game.
No, it can't. It's too insane.
I mean, she's not bad, especially with like, I feel like she might just be like a weaker new Goyo or something. I don't know. Maybe Castle will be more in the meta. She seems more situational than a Castle. So
can you shoot through those?
I don't know. You can just melee her like
I know
rocks.
you can melee their walls.
Yeah, you can melee her rocks and then that,
can you
like,
shoot through
breaks
it?
them. No, you cannot.
Yeah, so it's extremely strong for positions like Rafters.
I think it's just going to be better for the late game, like just a way to slow down the opponents, just like a time waster kind of thing. Again, incredibly situational, and we're not going to see her in comp for like a whole nother season too. So
yeah,
you need to take that.
It's really just us kind of guesstimating how she'll necessarily play out. But look, once again, Rio Grande with a very swift entry into the garage, really only needing about 60 seconds to get that wall open, and they are already able to send 2 inside. And notice, you called out Heinz for splitting off so much of Rafters, and yet playing beyond the shield and actually finding the first frag for their side. It doesn't last for long, though, as a nade will be sent to the opposing direction, and Ajax will be on the, I guess, unfortunate end of it. And it's kind of a tied 4-all situation in terms of operators. No one really having the advantage just yet, but you can see the information being gathered for Rio Grande. They have 5 drones out and about. That is an impressive statistic for a side that is actually using their intel correctly. It's just a matter of keeping those players alive. I don't think Azura really had much intel to go off of.
Yeah, no cap. If they just rush Heinz, they could probably kill him in this instance here. Quixie just gets control of red instantly, so that is huge for Rio Grande. They've now reclaimed the man advantage and have given themselves a pretty important part of the map. Quixie just runs in uncontested for their 3rd on the round, potentially an ace, depending on how well they can shoot against Ancient Boot, but unfortunately they will get BBNO'd. It's Heinz and Ancient Booth with the Echo off site, and so is Heinz, so a plant will be going down to better play in that position. I'm hoping someone's watching here for Heinz. They toss out a smoke, but it's not at the right time, so Undead King can simply just stick this plant and now probably relocate outside of the building, or really anywhere but here, and it's still going to be a pretty prominent place for Rio Grande. A 3 versus 2 as no one's been able to revive the Maverick just yet. Ancient Boot now confirming a kill. A smoke canister actually shuts down Undead King. So now it is just Caboose left alive. They're getting wallbang currently, but that's probably just to finish off the Maverick and not end up eliminating out the Sledge. They'll now rotate around to 1v1 against Heinz, but the Mossberg is just simply better in that close confrontation. St. Ambrose with a phenomenal retake. But man, the overconfidence there by the attacking side of Rio Grande, that was their biggest problem, because their positioning was just so congested. It allowed St. Ambrose to get back that site control pretty easily and net multiple kills at the exact same time for free, basically.
Not to take away from the importance of that round, but I'm going to switch points here entirely. In fact, I'm going to switch games here entirely for just a moment.
Oh, no, not Valorant.
So I was VOD reviewing yesterday, like late last night while I was hanging out with Mick, a.k.a. Dallas, who actually in SEC as well, for those of you who don't know. And I was looking at the comments for one of the videos for the cast that I did, and somebody said, why do the casters ask if there's enough time to go for the defuse? One, we don't have a timer like in R6 that shows you, and you kind of memorize that number. It's kind of like a guessing game, so to say, but I know when it goes off. You just can tell off the audio cue and position of actually the visual cues, I guess, from the spike. But it's a storytelling thing, right? I feel like, is he gonna get it? Is there time? We still do that in R6 as well. Like, you're still trying to figure out, is there time to go for it? Can he make it to that point? Is there a defuse chance? Can we see a rotation in good enough time? Can Rio Grande step up and survive in the 1-on-3? Can St. Ambrose get that last kill in proper timing? It's just us weaving a story. And unfortunately, this story, at least for Rap 1, was really just Rio Grande making it into a very nice... How do I say this? It looked like a Cinderella story. A bit of a rough start. Had to turn something into a pumpkin, turned it around, and had a ball of it, so to say. And only real fault they had in that entire last map was that one round loss they had towards the end. And that could have been attributed to the fact that they lost their glass slipper at the end going down the stairs. But I'll tell you what, St. Ambrose on this map have looked a lot better. Their defense has been... while still kind of sedimentary, I still find that they're picking up frags where they need to. And Ancient Boot, more specifically, comboing with Heinz, has been the 2 players to look out for. And I called them out in between Map 1 and Map 2. I thought those 2 were the 2 players that did the best on Map 1, and they're showing that here as well on Map 2.
Hey, well, this could be the potential reattempt here at Cinderella story. Maybe Cinderella 2 Electric Boogaloo. You never know, perhaps.
Really?
I don't know. No one really ever knows, but at least Rio Grande are still up to the same old stuff, just a different round, getting the back control of blue and also getting Kitchen Hatch opened up fairly early in the round. I think the only difference here is that no one has started moving in towards dirt just yet, so at least there is some sort of change here for Rio Grande, but still pretty much the exact same shenanigans. Quixie out with the M249 is going to get rid of Ajax very early in the round. Another toxic canister now expended as well by Heinz. Already so much utility down the drain here for St. Ambrose. Not a good spot because there's still 1:30 left to kill, and really they're already at the deficit, so this is just not looking all that hopeful so far.
they're employing a Capitao as well as having 4 smoke canisters to work with. I feel like they could have used an extra set of nades, but you know, to each their own. But take a look. Already control over blue has been gained for the side of Riotgrond, and we've talked about how that was important for them last time around, as it was a triple reinforcement from St. Ambrose, and it kind of bit them in the rear when it came to the later stage of the round, especially in that post plant. But it's the dirt side push once again. Quixie and Azura each comboing, attempting to find themselves some kills, and I think Azura may take a step back, try to go for a drone play to give Quixie information, or maybe it'll be quite the opposite. Quixie now actually droning in the process to try and poke and prod at where St. Ambrose are lying in wait, and quite literally lying in wait, as there was in fact a defender, Fleegs, who was lying down on the ground there in that door, connecting over towards that church side to go for something. You'll see the smoke go down. That could actually give spacing to go for a plant, but Undead King is playing through blue instead. It's a player stepping out of Mimo. The boost finding, too, a very solid performance in this round for him. He's had a bit of a sleeper performance in some of the other ones, but a quick boost to pick himself back up. But Ancient Boot will give him the boot in this round, as Hines as well swings out from their cubby and finds the kill of the head poking out from that dirt side. It's just the player of Undead King left standing, and it may not be for much longer. Hines will step around the corner, decisive as always, and St. Ambrose find themselves another round win.
Hey, you know what? They remained calm, and they just sat in the positions required in order to stop a blue push, so they had that going for them. Got to give credit where credit is due. A nice little pat on the shoulder around for the gents over at St. Ambrose. Now we're heading in back towards another time out. I think the biggest problem there for Rio Grande was just their general positioning. In like any circumstance, if you want to kill somebody in church in that situation, then you have them sit on main stairs and just wait for them to rotate back to site if you're going to go plant inside of Arsenal in the back of boxes and near like that dummy area. And also having only 1, maybe 2 players on the kitchen hatch, definitely not enough, because once we saw that hatch pressure alleviated, we had the smoke just fall back deeper into Arsenal and no one could deal with him properly. So not setting yourself up for success there, Rio Grande. That is the main reason why you obviously failed that last round. But again, St. Ambrose just keeping their cool, eventually able to refrag and still sticking to their guns. That's what kept them alive. So that is the reason why they've gotten their 3rd round on the board and are doing much better overall in this first half than they did probably throughout the entire matchup that we saw earlier on Villa, for sure, Scott.
So this is the last round of the half, which means that if Rio Grande want a positive half, to at least break even, because technically, you know, even is positive, I guess, to a degree. It's kind of a net neutral.
Better than negative.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it depends. Are you taking really cool photos? Have you ever seen those, like reverse negative polarized photos that are all, like, really cool? I'm pretty sure I saw some pro in R6 post one time, and I was like, wow, that's pretty poggers, my guy. But still, digressing onwards to the point that I was making, Rio Grande have had really good success in this half so far, but I feel like ultimately their biggest and weakest link is the fact that they are tossing out these smokes, and we saw that there by the side of Azura in that last round. Actually, it was Quixie, I think, that was on the Capitao last round. We saw that there. They tossed out the smokes, but the smokes were in the door leading out of it, and they didn't even pursue anything beyond it. Not even trying to step through, no Stewie 2K attempt. They weren't trying to play through it as a transition, as a way to cover their entry, nothing. And I felt like there was a major weakness for their side. They had plenty of options to step closer to that doorway and maybe get a swing out with the smoke to cut the sight lines of Hines, who ultimately started to become a problem, or to go towards Fleegs, who had managed to die but was still lying on the ground watching that doorway of dirt. There were so many options available for Rio Grande, and they didn't employ any of them. So I think that, looking back on that, they'll kind of realize that they have that safety, and it's something they can VOD review for, but with Rio Grande around down and St. Ambrose around up, and this is the first time we've managed to see that since round 2 of the last map, I think that St. Ambrose have started to swing things ever in their favor.
Hey, they've still... I mean, I'm trying to really wrap my head around this as well, to be honest, Scott, because I've been trying to, like, turn the cogs in my brain to see what I can do. That's a very peculiar smoke nade, because you don't really need to be that close to the wall to do your job as the Maverick. The shield and all the batteries get destroyed too. Another one gets placed, but that is for the bathroom wall. Not horrible, especially since that can deny 1 point of entry for the attack, but they still got Jacuzzi opened up at the end of the day, and that was what they were really locking their eyes on him. So once again, not a bad start for Rio Grande. They just need to now transition some of that aggression over towards the opposite side of the map, which they're getting ready to do, opening up that single wall leading in towards Cons. But at least St. Ambrose, they haven't lost anybody just yet. Unfortunately, though, Heinz has already used up all of their smoke canisters, so they're only going to be good for the gun and maybe some sort of rotation being made with that shotgun.
I like the play we're seeing right now from Rio Grande as they play this one slowly. I did see a lot of pace, a lot of tempo as they tried to catch St. Ambrose off guard. We saw that last time we saw this objective. They were very quick to take control of this hallway. They flushed out 2 players in Jim. They'd also managed to take Trojan out in the hall section himself and then Ancient Boot in return. There was a lot of success to be had, but talk about the control over Logi that we've already seen gained here a minute and a half into the round. This is huge for Azura. She now has a power position to cut down this shield player that's been hiding in wait, and Ajax takes a lot of damage because of it, and Caboose just cleans up the kill on the rear. A great thing for a Caboose. Funny. But you'll see another swing out come out here from Terminal. This one on a lying down player. The DB and Ode player as well will be felled, but it's Caboose as well to take out the last kill. I've really liked that round. They did not play in to the St. Ambrose side whatsoever. They said, this is our time to come back into this one. Let us play how we want to play.
And I mean, once again, more than one way of entry. They had somebody out on the main balcony, just sitting around near windows. They had people hopping in through Cons. I mean, just crossing off everything on the checklist. And then we had everyone just kind of huddling together, just trying to keep warm inside a master bedroom, which is just not the best option. Bedroom is such a difficult site to try to hold directly. I mean, you can maybe play in bathroom and like behind the bomb chassis, but those are the only 2 good spots to play in for defender. So having people like just kind of prone in the most odd spots underneath the main window and next to like the rotate hole or where it should be between Logi and Master, it was just overcrowding inside of sight. We've seen that happen far too many times by St. Ambrose, and it may have given them at least 3 rounds on the board. Even some of the rounds that they ended up winning were still down to the wire and had a lot of reasons to do with the fact that Rio Grande also didn't play that well in those rounds either. But moving in towards the second half of the round, St. Ambrose now get to try their best on the attack and vice versa for Rio Grande. So we'll see what kind of funny plays they want to opt for going this time around here on their different halves. And looks like we still have both the Osa and Zero on the side of St. Ambrose. So I guess old habits die hard here today, Scott.
Good movie. Good movie. But, have you actually seen that movie, John?
I don't think so. What is the name?
I can't be friends with you anymore. Die Hard is the name. Literally.
Oh no, yeah, no, I have
okay,
seen Die Hard. I didn't know that was what the quote was from. I didn't know if they like stole that from somebody
else. It may be
else.
Actually. I don't know. I just said Die Hard. My head goes to the movie immediately, which is definitely a Christmas.
One of the best Christmas. Yes, one of the best Christmas movies. Yes, King.
Only because it takes place on Christmas. It didn't even come out at Christmas time.
And then that was like the running like gag for the next Die Hard movies too, which was nowhere as good as the first one.
No, but you know it's a principle that it's set in place.
Money grabbers, man, can't stand them.
Ridiculous. But 40 seconds have been bought, and no one's really taken any damage whatsoever. A couple drones knocked off the board, 4 total, and Rio Grande are seemingly trying to put a stop to the information grabbing, not money grubbing, that we talked about just a second ago from St. Ambrose's side. And I actually like seeing that. I kind of harped on their drone economy on map 1, but I feel like at least this time they're trying to gather the intel proactively instead of just sending those out, losing them all in the prep phase, and then just saying, yeah, that's all we had, nothing too big to worry about. But take a look at this rotate that's coming out from Quixie. Has control over rafters, now Garage in their hands, could walk down into pit, finding an opportune moment for the kill, and that's where it is. 2 players up now for the side of Rio Grande as Quixie finds their second total frag. And this is just falling apart now for St. Ambrose, and it's going to require Ancient Boot to find something, but Heinz makes it even worse. Still a 2-player advantage.
Case dropped, though, and this is not a very good predicament. Even if it was like a 3-on-3, for example, or 4v4, still not having Diffuser in your back pocket is not a good sight to see for St. Ambrose. They're really going to have to work some black magic to try to get this one back in the books. At least they have some sort of hard reach to get the blue hatch opened up. That could maybe help them in their endeavors of getting that part of the map in their back pocket. Terminal getting a bit aggressive inside of Oil Pit, just kind of waiting for someone to drop down from that direction. And Azura, they've got their teammates back watch completely. So this is honestly a great position for Rio Grande and St. Ambrose. The fact they don't have a lot of manpower now doubled down as well because Trojan's the only one left to stand. It's just looking quite rough for the attacking side as well. There isn't probably much that Trojan can get done in these last 30 seconds by themselves.
Maybe they pull a Trojan horse, you know, just walk into sight and saying, I am totally not anything dangerous, and then just turn around and
I swear I'm
with
not
the
an
two
attacker
nades.
trying to plant.
Yeah,
I swear.
I swear I'm not packing 2 nades in the pocket ready to use them at a moment's notice. Definitely not. Keep in mind, only 3 uses of the hammer have been brought to the table so far. I feel like that's a bit slim, especially when there's so many floorboards you need to clear in that hallway and to just get Cylons on Basement Hall, as well as being able to watch around some of those hatches, especially towards Mimo, could catch a few players off guard. It just feels like a lot of utility wasn't utilized by Ambrose, and they could have done a better job in trying to flush out some of the defenders. I think that would be a good way to phrase it, because from the looks of things, Rio Grande just played their own game. They really didn't need to move away from their positions. When they extended, they were comfortable in their extensions, and there was no contention. There was no floor clear from St. Ambrose. There was players on the second floor that were there the entire game and only died because they go, oh, we lost a player behind. He's probably still there. Go over there, and Ancient Boot gets the kill. That cannot be allowed for the side of St. Ambrose. They have to do a better job of clearing, and I think, once again, that's maybe the problem of why we need to see a Nomad, maybe even a Gridlock if you're more comfortable with that weapon, but there's just not enough denial on the side of St. Ambrose.
Oh no, we can't go into the topic of having a flank watch on Clubhouse. That is, nope, that is red territory. Nope.
Why not?
We don't bring up that kind of stuff in my house, Scott. We're gonna have to put a pip on that, and I will give you context after the match.
Tell me now.
For I'd have to actually probably go look up the full thing, because it has been a long time since I've heard that. Started out with like some sort of like silly tweet of like, should you have a Nomad for like flank watch on Clubhouse? My answer would most definitely be no.
But when you're dying this bad, and St. Ambrose have literally
maybe
never
St.
found
Ambrose
anything.
kind of break the. I don't think we're seeing like full like T1 pro strat. So honestly, I think I would have to agree that Nomad would probably be like not a bad option. It's just like, it's kind of like PTSD, where like you hear Nomad and Clubhouse together and you just start shaking in your chair. So my apologies.
To be fair, I would be shaking more if I'm seeing lost, player dead, player dead. Find something, right? A Nomad, right. I even said Gridlock, just something that cuts off and watches the flank.
We don't have good memories here. At the,
you just aren't doing it.
Nomad on Club. Yeah.
I'm sorry I triggered you. I apologize.
No, it's okay. Also, especially since, like, again, I talked about this on Villa, like, secondary hard breach. Agent Boot, yeah, they did use it last round, so that's fine. But you also have a Habana, so don't know if it's actually as good in comparison to that Gridlock or Nomad.
We'll have to see. Trojan as trying to work their way through the Logi side. We talked a little bit about how strong the side of Rio Grande was when clearing out Logi towards a push onto that master bedroom and gym site, but right now, I'm liking the extension from St. Ambrose. It's the principle behind it. They're like, hey, cash room extension, but you've got a player that's not even extended on cash. They're on red stairs, which is just an unnecessary level that's added on top. It just doesn't feel like something that's a priority for them. But an Archer Cell instance, seemingly you would say, oh, what a waste, but it does clear out that shield, and it makes it so that Hines has nothing left in regards to that, and that window is a wide gaping hole that the defense can continue to use throughout this round to deny that southern subroof.
Say, at least with Ancient Boot, at least having that Zero, having his specialty weapon, has been gifting him plenty of kills. I mean, right on cue, he nets up 3 all in a row. Maybe that's just the whole point behind bringing out the Zero. It's just simply a comfort pick for Ancient Boot. And I mean, hey, at least if you're able to find picks, that can be one of the main things that truly matters here for St. Ambrose. A 5 versus 2 now with just Quixie and Caboose left on the board. There's a yellow ping indicating at least someone is around both construction and or the backside of cash room. So that basically snuffs out only one more defender here. That's Quixie. They give themselves up pretty effectively as Trojan is there in the refrag, and it's only the Melusi left to stand. Luckily, Trojan was already pretty low in HP. That's easy pickings for the Melusi. Still 1 versus 3 though, and you are kind of trapped between a rock and a hard space. You could try to rotate around. It looks like Fleegs will now opt to go for that plant, and there is amped coverage by Heinz. So that round is going to go in the books as a victory here for St. Ambrose, equalizing things yet again, this time 4-4.
One of the most important and kind of undervalued, especially in terms of the T4, T3 scene and collegiate as a whole, is coverage when you're talking about going for that diffuser plant. And Heinz did a really good job in that round. And we've called out Heinz multiple times on map 1 and map 2 for being one of the better players on the St. Ambrose sides in terms of proper utility usage and kind of being that maybe IGL, but kind of being the forefront on that kill feed as well as just having the strategies behind them. We saw the great coverage there. I really liked their ability to pick up those frags in the middle stages of those rounds. Rio Grande didn't really put up that much of a fight towards Jacuzzi Wall, and then the control over Logi that was gained was the same problem that St. Ambrose had on their defense, and the fact that Rio Grande knows that or knew that and still let that happen to themselves seems like something that they just didn't anticipate to happen, which could lead me to believe that they just didn't expect St. Ambrose to come out with that level of ferocity or that level of strategy, and they kind of didn't respect them in that regard. And I think that's something you can't do, because with fraggers on the side of St. Ambrose that have been performing quite well, I mean, Fleeks has had their glimpse of success. Trojan has stepped up pretty big in some of these rounds, but Heinz and Ancient Boot more specifically, you got to have respect for them. You cannot play passively against a squad like this.
So I think Ancient Boot was one of the top fraggers, if not the top fragger for St. Ambrose last game. Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, any kind of target, any kind of bounty you're looking for would definitely be on Ancient Boot, whether to back off and let one of the bigger dogs try to take him down or just get him off the board almost immediately. One or the other would definitely bode well for you for Rio Grande. So that might be something to keep in the back pocket.
He's the raid boss.
Defensive side. Yeah, there it is.
He's the raid boss.
I think I did that. I think I said that in like my practice cast. Actually, funny enough, I was thinking about him and I was like, man, I should say that. It is a good one-liner to bring out every now and again. And oh, that's a cheeky angle to bring out once in a while too. What is it with like defenders sitting up next to drone holes that people like either shoot through or burn utility through? I cannot get my head across that, because St. Ambrose
not
did
proper
that.
map knowledge.
Like, I had simply lacking. St. Ambrose did that like on their defensive half for Gym and Bedroom, and then now Rio Grande just did it, and Undead King is now dead because of that. So big facepalm.
It's unfortunate, but talking about a 4v5 to make it worse, it could very well be 3v5 with Quixie being on the prowl. The drone is sent, a dive to the ground, and Trojan avoids Quixie's fire with a prone shot. Haven't you seen those new clickbait videos here, John? The prone meta is back here in year 7. It's not. Please don't do that. I would never want to see that in my life. But in that situation, it pays dividends as just being able to avoid that fire. And I'd say really poor spot for Rio Grande, as on top of the damage that's already been dealt, Azura is eating the shield explosion as well as the fire that was dropped thereafter. Trojan finding themselves their second in this round, this onto Caboose. And it's a 2v5. Player crossing the Habana of Fleegs, trying to make the getaway, and will go down to plant the diffuser terminals in a spot that maybe will allow for a kill, but fails to throw the Nitro Cell in a successful manner. And now it is a full frontal defense, as this objective has flipped on its head. Attack now the defense, and the defense now, unfortunately, 6 feet under, with another frag garnered all the way over from that rafter staircase.
Such an important spot to have in your back pocket as an attacker. So getting that control instantly and also finding 2 quick picks as well. Pretty good stuff by St. Ambrose. They are definitely picking up the ball on Clubhouse, and I guess that makes sense as to why they wanted to go here. After all, actually double check that really quickly. Yeah, that was St. Ambrose's map pick. So at least the comfort, it's definitely showing here for St. Ambrose, and they are now actually in the lead once again. Now this time on the second half. Church and Arsenal now back on the table here for Rio Grande, and I'm wondering what they will try to do differently here when bringing this out on round number 10, because to be honest, I'm not quite sure what they really want to go for. They've got the Tachanka here for the Shamiga launcher, so there is some sort of general denial. There's plenty of intel to be gathered, both with the Mozzie and also the Malusi. So I'm guessing they're going to have some sort of like light roam game and then still try to kind of hold the site much more heavily, which is what they did last time. So I guess really sticking to what they were comfortable with last time going here.
Do you think a lot of this game has been comfort picks, because Heinz playing Osa, even on objectives that don't really make sense, there hasn't been really any versatility in the operator lineup. So I'm very stressed about whether or not Rio Grande can adapt. Because we talked about the way St. Ambrose was able to adopt something. They kind of changed up what they were doing. Unfortunately, they didn't change it up fast enough on map 1. But this map 2, they have employed quite a few different strategies, especially when we talk about on the defense, where they're able to take themselves in a pretty good stride. But now on the attack, they're ahead, which is another point that we've only seen that a couple times today. One very early on in map 1, and a little bit earlier towards the second half of the first half of this round, the latter stages. It's just St. Ambrose have really stepped ahead on their map pick. And I don't think that's too shocking to say in the collegiate scene, but with the difference that we saw between these two squads on map 1, I did not expect St. Ambrose to come out with such a level of ferocity that actually could contend with the strategies that Rio Grande were employing.
I'd have to hard agree with you there as well. Definitely brought their A game here on Clubhouse, which they did on Villa as well, but that's all right. At least they're doing good on their own map pick. First minute just about over and done with, and I think St. Ambrose are just about ready to start getting that kitchen hatch opened up, and then they can relay some of their attention over towards the rest of the middle floor. Caboose has still not been dealt with towards Strip, so they can potentially find some sort of cheeky angle to win some sort of gunfight. Unfortunately, that pool table is going to be right in front of Caboose's LOS. You could just make a crouch kill hole or anything but a prone hole, but oh well, it looks like Caboose will just move from Strip and go over towards Toilet to be a bit more of an easier nuisance here moving forward. So not the worst thing in the world, and I'm not too sure if a drone actually spotted out the roaming Melusi or not. Only time will tell, because no one swung out on the roaming player just yet. It's a bit of a stalemate for the time being.
Caboose's position, while I like it because it can garner a kill fairly early, there's not a huge chance for a getaway. There's no hatch for him to drop down after everything starts to hit the fan, right? There's no real escape that they can employ once they are able to pick up their first. It's just a matter of trying to get over to it. And while there is that staircase, there's two players that have been watching that hall, and that's why Caboose necessarily hasn't pushed in that direction. Plenty of control can be gained, and the rotation of safety can go through the bar, making their way on over towards break, but in all honesty, I don't think that's where they want to go. Caboose is pretty hungry and has been this entire game. It's a player that guns for these frags as best as possible, but we're seeing the objective play now go forward. Hines with the shield up. It's really just so difficult to get those feet off and try to cripple the player of Hines, that Osa, to not allow for them to get that foothold. But it's Azura, first player to fall. Flakes will push around that shield, finding the kill. Caboose up in bar, tries to stand on the bar and use an impact to gain sightlines on towards the players down below, but Trojan just deals with it in a pretty quick fashion, and with only 20 seconds left, John, it's looking like we'll see St. Ambrose take this round.
Oh, looks like it's going to be a tough predicament here for Rio Grande to bounce back from. We are in red time, though, so things will have to definitely get stepped up. Case now dropped, though. They tried pushing out the Mozzie. Finally, it works out, but it's a 1 versus 2. Much more winnable here for Quixie, but Trojan, they've got their number dialed up. One more shot, that's all they need, and Quixie just walks into Trojan, shooting at them. You can move around from blue. You don't need to instigate that fight. But for some odd reason, Quixie thought that was the best option there, and clearly it was not. Match point now for St. Ambrose, and we are going back in towards another timeout. I mean, man, that was just such an odd way to end out the round there, but at least St. Ambrose still got the job done.
That was just weird.
Yeah.
So where did this, because I'm actually genuinely curious here, where did St. Ambrose push from? They go from main stairs and go through church wall, along church hall, and then step into Mimo, right? Or did they drop hatch? I don't think they busted hatch yet.
They opened kitchen hatch. But
I know kitchen hatch, but I don't think they opened Moto hatch.
I don't know. I think they just walked down main. Yeah, no, because there was literally Mozzie in Moto, like just uncontested for like so long. So clearly they didn't have the hatch opened up. So yeah,
it's so weird for them to push from two completely different directions like that. If you're pushing from two sides, you'll see a lot of players do go through main, and they'll also have a kitchen hatch play, or kitchen hatch and maybe blue. You don't really see a huge break saw right there, because kitchen hatch wasn't really the point of their drop. They didn't really employ the kitchen hatch as much as they were trying to initially, because we saw St. Ambrose spent a lot of time in kitchen. They just bought so much, and I was really worried about that expenditure of time, but Caboose failed to clean up for the kill anyways. The impact a bit too obvious and just gets sprayed down quickly. It just felt like St. Ambrose kind of felt the pressure of time and then just went. Just go, pray. And while they had the man advantage, you can't just let two players get cut down like that.
No, not at all. If they did not have a 5v2 lead, that would have been around 100% for Rio Grande. But hey, you're allowed to make those kind of mistakes when you have such a high advantage, and that's because you guys played really well in like the middle part of the round. So at least you had that going for you, and you guys still recovered pretty well. So not the worst from St. Ambrose. And this is actually the best we have seen them, like I mentioned earlier. They're actually in match point. They only need one more round to steal this one away and give themselves a second chance at redemption all the way on Oregon. I have zero clue how Oregon will play out. That is going to be like the biggest head scratcher of the day. 100%. And then we still have like another match to get through as well, Scott. This night is just going to be it's a wild show. It's like you get the Wild Wasteland trait on when you're playing New Vegas, and you just see like all of the strangest things for the first time.
I know where I'm going. Man, I'm going straight outside the strip, and I'm head over to get the alien blaster. That's what I do every time.
You are living a fever dream, to say the least.
Well, and it does feel like a fever dream. We weren't even supposed to be on at this time, let alone pulling the doubleheader. But it's fine. It's whatever it is. We're having a fairly fun time. St. Ambrose, though, are really trying to make us be here for as long as possible. Third map could be on the board as they've hit their match point time. Make it or break it for the Rio Grande side. I think that with the defensive setup we're seeing right now, bringing the castle barricade is a huge time sink, which was a problem St. Ambrose were running into. Like you said, towards the end, they're in red time, and they're just fumbling the bag, having lost the diffuser. They're sprinting into dining. They have to clear out Moto. They lost so many people just in the latter stages of just being too quick or too sprinty. I know Chief would have stuff to say about that. Take off the sprint key, blah, blah, blah. But Rio Grande, it's just a time sink for them. They have the Malusi, that was banned in map 1. You can use those Banshees to slow down time again. The ADS is burnout utility, which leads you to believe that they're just trying to buy themselves even further time, but not allowing these flashes or nades to remove these footholds for which Rio Grande are trying to work towards. It's the same thing with these Legion Goo Mines. Maybe that's a comfort pick for Terminal with a T5 SMG. I see it. I love that gun. But it also is a time sink. But none of that's going to matter when there is a crouching player of Osa just walking at you menacingly with a shield in their face, and you're not able to deal any damage to them because you're not tossing explosive utility back in their direction. You have no nitro cells to be able to clear that shield player.
Oh, at least they've got Overwatch, though, on top main, so no funny business can happen. Maybe some sort of hatch play could happen. A nade gets tossed. Luckily, Quixie actually is able to evade it because they're so far away. You've got Undead King waiting for someone to push in towards the site. Caboose will find some sort of refrag, so your top fragger of the Zero is now gone. Ancient Boot will now be relegated to camera duty. The plant is being confirmed here by Fleegs. No one's here to deny it just yet, and luckily there is a smoke to actually impair the vision of Azura. They try to swing wide, but unfortunately she's not able to find that first pick down the post-plant situation. So still that 4 versus 4. Not the worst predicament here, but as the Aruni falls, things are just kind of getting worse and worse. This actually might be the point of no return now for Rio Grande 4v2, but no, Ajax actually swings, and it's a little bit too overzealous near that Osa shield. Luckily, though, Quixie was on pretty low HP, so Fleets can clean up that pick on the Jaeger, leaving Undead King, the last one to stand. It's 1 versus 3. Not a lot of time. You cannot be proning in this position. You have to get aggressive. You have to move forward to try to get this round in the bag, but unfortunately, they cannot. Just a simple placement there by Hines, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and eventually they'll end up finding that. So we are actually looking to go to a third and final map tonight, Scott, as we're going to have St. Ambrose bite back pretty effectively here on Clubhouse.
It's interesting to see that as well, especially after the story that was unwoven on map 1 with just such a dominant performance there by Rio Grande. Seeing Clubhouse, a map that I said would probably be easier for them in some ways, but I also was very worried that if they turtled up a bit too much, then they would be punished because you do kind of want an extension in some regards. But I really like what they brought to the table. St. Ambrose was definitely a new squad in that one. They definitely felt way more comfortable. Taking your own map pick, none too shocking. Both sides do so, and that forces us to a map 3.
Yep, and once again, before we go into a third and final map, we're going to a quick little break and be back to get Oregon underway to see who actually ends up coming out on top in that endeavor. Don't go anywhere, as we'll be back in just a little while. All right, and we are back here once again. Scott, the third and final map going to be Oregon. I think we have almost everyone ready up, so we'll be getting into the matchup pretty momentarily. But in terms of the map, Oregon, it's probably one of the most like stock standard places to go to for R6 comp, yet I genuinely have no idea what we're about to see here in this matchup. And that also includes bans, because we have seen a couple of unorthodox picks here between both St. Ambrose and Rio Grande, so we really could be in for any kind of treat here tonight.
We've touched on the history books, so to say, of some of the strategies that have been played. So maybe the ones I'm looking forward to is big tower, big closet control for second floor for the attack. That's the two avenues we'll probably see be approached. No longer the current strategies, which is usually playing in with trying to go through trophy and work from that direction, and maybe some control towards big window. For basements, we'll probably see a lot of pillar control, trying to go in through bunker, which has taken a backseat recently, kind of in favor of that laundry and freezers oriented push. And then in terms of our tertiary site, it's just going to be kind of the same old tried and true, going towards meeting and kind of clearing the second floor. That one's kind of been the same stay for quite a while, but we'll see the ban phase go through. Thatcher to remove out the possibility of those EMPs. Maybe a target ban here by getting rid of the Zofia, not having the lifeline utility. Mozzie off the clock. This was something that Rio Grande really utilized on map 1, so maybe St. Ambrose are indeed going for target picks to not allow that LMGE to rip through them, but Rio Grande will ban out the Mira, something that St. Ambrose themselves actually utilized on their defense.
Well, no Mira on the board, yeah, like you mentioned. Valkyrie is still an option, and both Rio Grande and St. Ambrose never strayed away from the Navy SEAL op, so I'm sure we'll probably have her on the board at some point. Oof, and a very bold pick off the bat for Rio Grande. They're going to be opting to go meeting room and kitchen first and foremost, but hey, I mean, getting one of the weaker sites out of the way first and foremost, that's not really a bad idea, especially since you've got an okay lineup to defend this site. I might have actually preferred a castle more than a Rooney for once, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, and still having to worry about that sledge. It is a hard counter towards the castle, so it's still not a phenomenal pick, but still having it on the board is better than nothing, I suppose.
So I really have started to make a bit of a resurgence in terms of my love and appreciation for this objective, but it's really just because I like the second floor objective, and that's typically how this one is defended, but with the extension that I think will be necessary in the kitchen side, I'm anticipating St. Ambrose to have a clear when it comes towards small tower. I'm expecting them to take control over towards Z Hall. I'm expecting them to employ CCTV and security room. I just don't think it's a huge possibility for them to just all spawn in over towards this northeast corner, play towards the rear stage section, and break down that hard wall in a meeting. It's just such a slow thing that St. Ambrose, they haven't really wanted to play that slow throughout this, and I don't expect that to change, especially in this game of attrition that is a BO3.
As Linus would have said, yep, game of attrition, that's the biggest one you've got to worry about. I'm going to keep making a bunch of Fallout references. Tried downloading some mods, like, I think the last time I played the game, and it all went fine until my game couldn't work when I alt-tabbed, and then I really started questioning my my life choices, as I can no longer fix that. But anyways, maybe we will see some fixes be made here by both teams moving into map number 3. I really don't get the purpose of that shield. Hines is like, I have like the most love-hate relationship with this individual, but thankfully they pick up that shield, so I won't be as annoyed. They just ended up placing a lot of shields early on for really no good reason, just to kind of like instantly break a barricade and be like, aha, I am here with an instant sightline. What will you do? Oh, you won't peek me? Oh, well, I guess I cannot do anything now because of that. So that's just been my biggest issue, especially since on an operator who I love to see in play, because she isn't completely quote-unquote meta yet. At least we didn't have that shield remain on big tower throughout the entire round, or I probably would have been fuming, to say the least, Scott.
Where the heck is Ajax? Ajax needs to be blowtorching out this.
I don't know.
It just doesn't make sense to me. You're sending Ace to big tower when you know you did not ban Kaid. There is an easy way for them to deny out any and all of your pushes with just electrical. You can see it. It's right here. It's super visible. Come on. That
Hello.
was really funny, actually. Oh my goodness. Ajax needed to be there a bit quicker to the second floor, and I do think they need to clear this player out in Attic. That is a major problem they're having right now, is that player is going to have control over Hatch, can cut down sightlines, and Rio Grande is a team that I think clinically is more talented for these gun skills and these gun engagements. St. Ambrose, that is the worst possible position to go through. Direct sightline and having the height disadvantage. Having the high ground, it means a lot here.
Oh no, I think Undead thought that was a Gemini walking in. Luckily though, Quixie is not going to make the same mistake, and neither is Azura. It's just a sea of blue at this point. We saw one cheeky pick favor St. Ambrose, and that was unfortunately it for their side. Rio Grande still asserting their dominance here on this meeting room defense. Fleegs having a bit of trouble controlling the AK-12's recoil, even with the holographic. Great position to be in. Also, Fleegs on very low HP, so one shot can potentially put them into dirt, depending on who actually shoots back at them. But luckily, the AUG doesn't really do a lot of damage in that altercation. Hines, although they are behind the shield, cannot outduel Quixie. Leaving the only one left alive is currently Fleegs, and they are already aware of that Ace's position. That hatch play is in still full effect as well, which is one of the most difficult things to deal with, unless you do it earlier in the round like you were actually prophesizing about, Scott. It doesn't look like the lone Ace can get that job done in the last 10 seconds of the round. They land a nice shot on towards Quixie, but that might be it for the round here. It's a swing out by Caboose, and they're going to win that 1-for-1. So Rio Grande take the first round here on Oregon pretty well overall, just really not giving away all that much against St. Ambrose.
I feel like there was definitely some weak links in terms of their defense, like thinking that it's a Gemini replicator, not proving that by just shooting it, which also increases the cooldown. I don't know why you wouldn't just shoot in that position. But, you know, they managed to make the recovery, and it's not a huge deal to them. We get the refrag pretty quickly back afterwards, but the Osa shield can work both directions. You can see through it from both sides. Hines' shield can help the defense as well, especially if you're not holding directly flush to the shields, like we saw in that last engagement as they try to swing out towards the staircases. Your bandits holding basically solo inside Green Hall. But it's just strange to have to harp on the fact that we're seeing an agent selection be picked constantly. There's not much being built around it. We've seen too many rounds where the first one just gets placed to remove a barricade, and that's it. It's never touched again. And then the second one's just kind of placed haphazardly in the middle of a hallway somewhere. In that round, there was just two placed right next to each other, both of them inches from each other, and they both did the same exact job. It was not necessary to be that far forward with it when you could have just used that cushion that's created with that shield and just gone around it for just a momentary longer, or waited to use it the first time and go forward. But I can't harp on it too much. Hines has picked it time in and time out. I don't expect that to change. It's just something they'll have to proactively work on from this point onwards. But it's our second floor objective. Rio Grande is looking to hold back what seems to be a St. Ambrose that are trying to make the same level of play they did on that last map. But like you said, they held on. In a good round, they ended it fairly quickly. John, what's your guess for how this attack is going to go for St. Ambrose? What's the push?
Quixie go shoot.
Quixie
go shoot.
But where are they pushing from? Where are they pushing from? Attack-wise?
I don't know. I mean,
wait, no, wait, we
see
see big window.
Already near big window. Like, big window is a good part of the map to have in your back pocket, but that's like you late rotate somebody. It's the same concept as blue on Clubhouse. You save that for last. That's kind of like the dessert of your like full course meal. So
The
starting
strategy
with
was
the
a season
dessert
ago.
is not great. I mean, if you had like a Ying, maybe you could like rush big window, but that's still very iffy because you can just play underneath and deny a plant. So there's a lot of holes in that set of armor if you wear it. So you are bound to die quite easily because of that. And other than big window, you've got master control with the first two OSHA shields already being placed. One will now get picked up. It's like a conga line of shields, and oh my
Every one of them placed in the exact same spot on Ajax
Why?
has no problem. You gotta start changing this up, Ryan Ron. This is not a position you want to keep doing, and Azura's gotta switch that pretty quickly. But it's the first kill to fall, and St. Ambrose are the players to do so. However, it doesn't last for much longer. Ancient Boot will get the boot from Terminal. Now relegated, as you say, to camera duty. I liked the Osa shield placement that initially gave them control over towards Master Bedroom. And playing big window isn't always the worst thing in the world, as it does kind of apply pressure from both directions, but there are so many weaknesses, like you said, and it can feel like you're being flooded from all directions. And if you're talking about having that armor, it's chainmail, it's water soluble, you're gonna have a lot of problems in that direction. But quick C for one, Fleegs right back in return, and it's gonna continue to be back and forth trading, now equalizing it too, with shots from underneath. Bunk seemingly the avenue of approach from that big window side. They have to go through the actual smoke, and it looks like a plant will come here through Hines.
I think Undead King could still actually shoot through that. Oh, yes, they can. That's not a good shield placement there, Osa. Looks like Hines is going to fall in a pretty precarious spot. Case now dropped. Trojan will now have to tussle in the 1 versus 2. This is just not a good spot to be in. And we could even see maybe like the rotate hole being reinforced potentially by the castle. It's like a very risky move, but that would force a very heavy funnel. Trojan trying to win out here in this position, gets rid of 1, but is now on very low HP. That Nitro Cell almost blows him up sky high, but it's not going to connect. There's still a chance at salvation here for St. Ambrose if another shot can be landed on the head, or at least a nice little 2-tap towards the body on this Kaid. But Azura, she's remaining so patient here. This is a big fan of this, I have to agree, because you have to force the hand of Trojan so heavily, and he has no idea where Kaid is playing at. The patience there was pristine, and that will allow Rio Grande to net yet another round here on the first half.
Well, we're kind of rude to Azura, laughing about her electric claw placement, but clutching up at the later stages of the round, it's pretty good in my opinion there, John. That's
why I think you need to put Azura on like secondary entry, because like she likes to run around and shoot people, and she can do that pretty fine.
Her play on map 1, she was hyper aggressive in towards bathroom on the second floor defense. She was playing the master bathroom side, and she was successful with the Aruni, which is why I'm really liking the Aruni being picked up here by Azura. But when you're talking about laundry room and supply room, this switch is only being made because Undead King's normal role probably isn't one they're hoping to hold on to. No smoke canisters. Keep that in mind, because that 6 pick off the smoke. They're still having Terminal play the comfort pick of the Legion.
But he doesn't play his goo mines, man.
There's no shield.
Like that too, yeah. So can't extend it an elbow. I don't think Rio Grande want to do that anyways. But I mean, it's not a bad thing to do. Don't place the Cade call like that. Have it like
Cade call,
on
it's not going to be easily cleared, you know?
They're going to shoot it from freezer there. I don't.
But I mean, at least they're not shooting it just by using one use of the blowtorch.
I think in general, for both Rio Grande and St. Ambrose, their utility placement, whether it be lack thereof or just when it is placed in a very weird spot, that has been like one of the biggest, like, or not one of the biggest, but one of the most like minute issues we have seen countless times. But it does end up building up over time as a bigger issue from what you would originally expect. Just knowing where to place your utility, or at least just placing it, especially for Terminal, because we have not seen a lot of rounds where he actually throws down his goo mines. I think this time is one of like the very different instances of that, but they're just still saving a Legion mine. For what? I have no idea, because I know you don't throw them in the late game. They just die in your pocket, so it's a waste of an operator.
Do you think this is like the worst game of Where's Waldo? But instead of Waldo, it's Electric Claws? And instead of actually struggling for 6 hours because I'm colorblind and all the colors just mesh together, I just immediately find the target, and it's just instantaneous. It's like the biggest picture on your screen, so to say. But yeah, that's what the game has been. Hines now facing the wrath.
The casual civilian.
Yeah. Hines now facing the wrath of the direct counter to those Osa shields, and it's an impact nade, and unfortunately for Terminal, there's no more left. Caboose could make the rotation over. He's in a pretty safe spot to do so, as no one's pursued towards Freezer just yet, but there's only one more Osa shield left standing, and Hines is kind of hoping for a bit more tertiary information to assist to push forward. You can gather that yourself by hiding behind it, but I think Rio Grande have kind of prepped themselves in a better way. I think that's also why they're bringing the Legion. It just slows down Hines' push, and that's been, while Hines doesn't necessarily get all the kills as Osa on the attack, it's still just been really annoying to have to deal with that, and it just doesn't allow St. Ambrose to play at the pace that they want to play with.
For a multifaceted approach for St. Ambrose, I believe they have Ancient Boot getting open the back hatch. in towards Laundry. That's not bad at all. And then they still have this push leading in through blue. Nobody checks for Terminal, though, and Ajax goes down because Osa refuses to drop her shield, unfortunately. Hines is now getting downed and finished off here by Terminal, just swinging wide. No one is here to back up Hines for a second time in a row. And Terminal will now in total have 5 pocket goo mines and then almost die with them, but it's actually Quixie in that position near the back of Pillar. Now Terminal actually get aggressive, drop down a singular goo mine, but you've got 4 to spare. Just start chucking them in blue and hope for the best, man.
And you're running out of time. 30 seconds left on the clock. Father Time now favoring the defense as it's essentially a 5-on-3 quickly made into the 5-on-2. Father Time ruthless, always ticking away with the defense into the health pool of what St. Ambrose are bringing to the table. Holding strong Fleeks, trying to come in through Freezer. It's a bit late for this, and the Banshee are doing exactly what it's intended. The purpose is not mattering just yet, though. Trojan locks the head off Azura. Trojan now DB&O'd, and it'll be finished off. It's actually an easier round ending than maybe we anticipated by seeing the lack of Freezer of bunker control and even the progression of bunker being taken by St. Ambrose. None of that mattered. Do you think we should have seen a bit more instead of the multifaceted approach, the two-dimensionality that we saw, which is good? Do you think we should have seen an actually one-dimensional approach, just taking blue?
No, I think it should have been directed somewhere else. Like,
I agree,
fine,
but with no control over blue, like they had it faster than literally anything else on that objective.
No, like blue is fine, but you gotta go meeting room. You don't go Laundry, you go meeting room, and then you
Take
can
E-box.
clear out the guy. You can clear the guy Pillar, or at least make sure no one plays an E-box. Because where was Terminal the whole round? E-box, and then he rotated at the end of the round, and he got 2 freebies because there was no one playing hatch, there was no one backstairs. Like if they had somebody play top in the middle part of meeting room, and then rotate backstairs while having someone on the hatch, then there wouldn't have been a problem at blue because there was no pressure on blue but the guy E-box. That's it. So I would have preferred to see no pressure towards Laundry until like the end bit of the game. It's exactly what I said earlier, Scott, of like you're starting your full course meal with a dessert, which, you know, if you're a fan of Iron Man, you know, like one of the main arch villains actually like doing that. Like,
are you implying people who do that are crazy or evil or something?
Like, yes, I am actually implying that, Scott. You read me like a book, which I'm surprised because I can't read. Yeah. Anyways, do not start. It's like you understand like the prefaces of like what you need to do, clearing out that map, but you're just doing it in all the wrong ways. It's like trying to, you know, imitate what better players are doing, but just not in the right way.
You say don't read it like a book, but how can I not when the cover is just so pretty, you know? I mean, I guess I shouldn't judge a book by a cover. That could be...
Yeah, it's not a good idea with me, too. The actual inner bits of my book are very small.
Very based.
No
nomads on Clubhouse. Based.
No. That would be based if you brought out a nomad. Yeah. That would, like, frighten me.
It would be. That's actually your biggest fear. Like, it's actually true. But I want to talk about the extension right now from Missouri. You're playing to die here. There is no getting away from this position, and the information is there for St. Ambrose. It's just a matter of time. But thankfully, Quixie is there. Has a really good position to go for 1. Wow, 2, as Ancient Boot will also be DB&O. There's no real way to finish that one off. Caboose will be able to take Trojan, though, elsewhere, and Fleeks gets the refrag back. Player crossing, as we're barely missing the opportunity, and the Osa shield picked back up. It is not destroyed by Hines. Instead, relegated back into their utility pool, but they've led 3. Yeah, there you go. 3. I called that one, but that was not the way I anticipated it to go. Hines, why are you shooting your teammates?
They were looking at the single window of Attic, but no, it was Terminal. Oh my god, that is just the worst timing. Oh lord, you hate to see it. It's a 4 versus 2 now. St. Ambrose at a pretty big upset. Because they didn't drone small tower. Like, they understand that getting small tower control is pretty nice, especially against like meeting or really a majority of any of these sites. Yet they didn't take the time to clear it, so they allowed Azura to just net a couple of nice picks and backup as well. Man, that's just such an upset again.
Why are they still pursuing small tower, though? That's kind of my question. I get if, like, you're like, okay, they've cleared out this direction. We don't necessarily have to worry about it, but I'm seeing really no drone presence again from them. Nobody's droning for the other and then working slowly. They're even using a pocket hard breach on a...
You don't need to do that.
Just walk around.
Just walk through the door.
There's 2 different doors connecting to that room, and you need the hard breach to work with because you could have a bigger hole and more sight lines to work with. Go through security as well. Open up 2 directions. I don't know. But there we go. Finally, it's used in the correct manner, so to say. It'll go through. Quixie is watching and seeing if they do go through security, but it's not going to happen. It looks like they'll play this one fairly I guess cookie cutter, but Hines to 1 and open the round up. But unfortunately, after they find their second, it's short-lived, and you'll find another round win in favor of the Rio Grande side. They have started to pound in the dirt. They have started to bring back the topsoil of that grave and rebury what St. Ambrose tried to dig back up after map 2.
Oh man, the timeout coming out as well. If I really don't know if a timeout is going to be able to save St. Ambrose here, unfortunately, but I like that they actually did take the time to call one as well. Just straight up like trying to ignore you have a problem with your team right now, that is not the correct thing to do. So at least having it called is a good thing here for Ajax. I'll give him the props on that. But it is just basic stuff that is the problem once again for St. Ambrose. Like they understand what they need to do, but they are not doing the right stuff to get that accomplished. Like they wanted small tower control. Yeah, that's fine. But there's like a 50-50 chance someone's either playing near small tower in like dining rooms. They can fall back to kitchen and still roam quite comfortably, or they're playing in like bathroom hall, for example, so they can like fall back into freezer or play top white, anything. Or they could be directly playing in small tower, which is kind of, a bit dangerous, but sometimes it works. And we didn't see anyone properly drone. We had Hines just plop a shield in the middle of small tower window, which doesn't give you anything except faceward information, and that is it, which that works both ways. So Azura had your number, and she dialed it up and found a couple of picks because of that. And then Quixie was there to respond as well. Like, just the basics, again, just not being followed. And that is the biggest problem here by St. Ambrose. Yes, those are the biggest issues or the easiest issues to fix, in the middle of a game. But unless you don't realize you're making those mistakes, which I don't think St. Ambrose understand that, because both St. Ambrose and Rio Grande, honestly, have been doing that over and over again throughout its best of 3, the timeout is going to be all for naught. But I think it is just about over. So maybe I'm proven wrong. I don't know.
You're just going off. Like, I'm over here, like, struggling with a mic arm and, like, it collapsing, and you're just
good thing I am
them.
rambling. I'm giving you time. It's okay.
I do want to say they have the fundamentals down, but it's not the fundamentals of competitive. It's the fundamentals of the game. So there's a difference between the basics and fundamentals in the sense that which you're trying to explain. Because St. Ambrose, they know how to play the game. We're seeing that. They found success. They're winning some rounds on last map. They got a couple in map 1, 3 total. Not obviously here, but they're finding kills and they're using utility, but they're not using it properly. And not to beat a dead horse here like you have laid in and time out. It's just competitive fundamentals. It's taking what you already know and translating that to the environment that you're in. And we just don't see that. And I think that's the biggest problem for it. I have to 100% agree with you in that regard. But Rio Grande on the defense, we're opting to go towards the second floor objective. And I want to point out what we saw St. Ambrose do the last time. Hines took control of her master bedroom, placed shield down indoor, leading over towards that awning. And then beyond that, they just kind of got cut down pretty quickly. There was some semblance of big window control, and I don't hate big window. I really don't, because it does apply pressure in both directions. But that player at big window, you're not trying to entry in from big window, because a single player hanging down on the first floor of the roamer can just clear out that floorboard and play that in the long con and just essentially make your entire presence mute, but yet you're still holding on to that spot. It's just for a few seconds, 20 to 30 seconds at the beginning of a round to make sure that the defense of Rio Grande is where you want them. Then you can step up and have control. Why is Hines placing? Thank you, Max. Why is Hines
I was going to
placing?
make a joke. $5. Hines puts that shield on Big Tower, but I didn't want to cut you off. But oh my lord. It's just wasting time. Just have a drone pre-place if you're that worried. Just
well, I'm a human drone. I'm a human drone. I just walk in.
Stop this at once.
It's like an ego peeking to a new level.
This is just Oh, this is madness.
He misses the Electro Claw.
Oh,
no,
no.
He'll still get it. But it wasn't exactly, you know?
Just kidding. Both Undead and Azura have had like very odd Cade Claw spots. Normally you want to put it in like somewhere completely random, not on like the very top of the double wall, but it's alright. Eventually it gets taken care of one way or another, so it's alright, I guess.
Oh yeah. Caboose has taken a bit of damage, but I think Boots in the worst position possible. DB and Ode on big window, and I don't think there's anyone else nearby. Take a look. Terminal's hanging out on white stairs, applying pressure towards Z. No one's really there at that point, but having that person down below means that any attempt to step in through big window can just be shut down through security. And why is Undead King swinging from drop into the main static when you know that there's more than one person? It's not just Heinz. Heinz is never alone. Heinz has to have somebody with them because Heinz cannot solo with a shield in their face. Last time on this time, we talked about it. Heinz went for the plant, but honestly, it was only able to be done because all of their teammates died behind Heinz, and they had to play it a little bit quicker to actually get it through that games room hard wall that they managed to breach out towards Closet. But, man, St. Ambrose, why are you're everywhere, but also it feels like you're applying pressure nowhere.
Oh, and Ajax got off the flank watch, so this could be a freebie for Quixie. They have no idea that this Valkyrie is moving in from the backside. Oh, this could be three easy picks. That's exactly what happens. It's only one, but here comes the Aruni play by Azura. Heinz now on low HP as well. The Aruni continues to get aggressive. They actually fall, unfortunately enough, but it's still a great health advantage for Rio Grande, and they've got time on their side. There's only about 20 seconds left. Trojan now gets down. It is only Heinz inside of Attic. They finally drop, and this is just once again just a rough predicament to put yourself into, and such a face palm. We saw several times Ajax just watching the flank, having that be a point of contention, and then they leave when Quixie finally decides, I'm gonna flank. Like,
you don't have to watch the flank that hard if you just play a flank watch.
But they didn't. They didn't.
Nomad, please.
What's Nomad?
Gridlock.
Operation Wind Bastion. Never heard of it.
Man,
well, clearly they must have heard of it because both these teams love Kaid, but they both like hate Nomad. I don't get it.
Goodness. Well, maybe I don't know if they love Kaid. They banned Kaid earlier, so I guess like
it's
a love-hate relationship.
You wouldn't
in each other's heads here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What a hectic map. This has been all the glimpses from St. Ambrose that we saw, and we kind of liked on map 2. I won't say loved. I still felt like they were very stationary and turtling. It just happened to play really well against Rio Grande. We see none of that here, and I get it. They're on the attack, so maybe it flips on the defense. Typically considered a defender-sided map, but we don't see extensions from St. Ambrose. We don't see pressure applied from more than one direction. It's very much sit still on site and pray. And this is a map where nades are really strong. And from what we saw in map 1, where there were nade kills gathered almost solo by the side of Rio Grande, and the ability to play a map like Villa to that level with actual default plays of actually clearing floorboards, properly using, lifelines. Obviously, lifelines is available right now, but I think Rio Grande will still have that same level of strategy. Maybe not as much, as we obviously didn't see it at all in Clubhouse, but I think they'll still have a default setup to work with. Don't place the shield flush.
Man.
I had to pick it back up.
I don't want to know. And one thing to note, Ancient Boots, someone who was really a driving factor of at least getting picks and opening things up for their team, they've been very quiet. 1-5 here on Oregon, which is not good. When we had one of the main points of St. Ambrose winning a lot of rounds on Clubhouse being Ancient Boot, just simply shooting people with the SC3000. That's the gun name of Zero, also a K at the end of that 3000, which is it's a really weird name, but I guess it's called the SC for short. That being one of the main reasons why we're winning a lot of rounds, that not being here on Oregon, big red flag. At least Fleegs will open things up. They've been doing quite well on the support role and actually top fragging at the exact same time. So Quixie will now fall pretty early on, but there is still plenty of competent players here on the side of Rio Grande, so I wouldn't be too concerned just yet for the defensive side, as that's their Jaeger dead, someone who could be quite expendable when they go on that roam game.
Now, one of the problems we've seen from St. Ambrose is the fact that they're not applying pressure from more than one direction, it's very staggered. Even when we do see them do, say, a big window push, why is your big window player pushing forward and trying to go for some damage or just trying to spray through and being able to be hit and return when nobody else is close? There's nothing else there. And I think that's just going to be another problem we see here, because notice how when Rio Grande has ever played this defensively, they're really good about being able to transition and pivot across this objective. It's very small. The basement's entirely positionally advantaged to be locked down by defense and defense only. It takes a lot to uproot the tree trunk that is a defense on this site. And St. Ambrose, they're coming from the wrong side, a very reminiscent 3 or 4 seasons ago push, as there is pressure on that big... Oh, he doesn't even see the player. Come on. A lot of pressure being applied on stairs, but there's not even a player on pillar. Caboose is holding bunker because there's been no presence in bunker.
Just, once again, the term I used earlier in the best of 3 is a stalemate currently between St. Ambrose and Rio Grande. Luckily, we have plenty of opening picks here for the attacking side, but here comes the refrag by Caboose. Swings out wide, almost gets another, but hey, there's Terminal there, right on the retaliation mark. Undeadly King, their reaction time may be slow, but their shots, they're definitely going to land at just the right time. Hines now, 1 versus 2. They can definitely win this one, though. Both Terminal and Undead King are on very low HP, and now the smoke is dead, leaving only the Kaid left to stand. A pre-fire is attempted.
How do you win that?
What are you aiming at, Hines? Undead King, 1 shot away from death, still lives because everything missed him, and it's going to be 6-0 for Rio Grande on their first half. I mean, what is this?
You said his name wrong. Put some respect on his name. It's not Undeadly King, like you called it after that first kill. It's Undead King. Anything but undeadly, as 2 kills dropping and essentially pulling a book straight out of the Matrix. The good Matrix is, not the most recent one, and just dodging everything there.
Finally?
What?
Wait, that movie's dropped finally?
The new Matrix?
Oh yeah, wasn't that like in
It
December?
dropped like months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that this? Yeah,
I didn't
see
hate it.
Was it
It's
bad?
good. It's good if you're like a Matrix fanboy and you're like, oh wow, I'm seeing so many things that like are so reminiscent. There's a lot of really hidden things in the background, but no, that movie was just all over the place. It made no sense whatsoever when you like look back after watching it. It really just doesn't make sense. Sorry to ruin that movie for people. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's weird. If you want to DM me afterwards, follow me on Twitter, INFERNOS1S. I will converse with you for an hour about why that movie just rubs me the wrong way after rewatching it again. I loved it after the first time. Second time, no. But yeah, it's just, how do you get away with that position? It just seemed like such an oddity in that spot. But now St. Ambrose get to be on the defense. They're going to bring out the Kaid for those electric claws. Maybe smarter electric claw placement will be employed at this point. But Max, can you go ahead and zoom on over to the games room wall? I'm actually really curious as to where the electric claw is placed. Is this placed with any intent to deny it? Or is this placed with just... No, there is no placement with intent to deny it. Thanks, Max. It just denies that. No.
Oh, Valorant free cam moment. Nice.
I don't see the lineup being followed, actually, so no. Where's the
What
shock dot?
lineup? The
Shock
grenade
dot?
lineup?
Yeah, there's no button to follow that piece of utility as it's sent.
No.
There
That'd
is
be,
in
like,
Val. It's
kinda
cool.
cool.
It is really cool. You see a shock dart get sent over the map, and you just press a single button as an observer and just follow it. It's really cool.
Say they
Actually,
have
views
that
up
in
there.
like the end round kill cam for R6 if a nade is like the last thing that kills somebody, or at least like they used to.
Which
I
means
can't
it exists.
It's somewhere in the
there.
files, but it's probably like if you like open that file, you're bound to get like 80 bugs as well after it, like glitch with free cam, and just when a player throws a grenade, they are now invisible. Like just stuff you would not think of could be a problem is now a problem. That is the Ubisoft way. That is.
And
the
then you got
R6
your
way.
incentive program, though. Game breaking bug. And I want my packs. Give me my packs, Ubisoft.
You can spam R6 fix now with the 800 new bugs developed in the new season.
Hey, I went into your
progress.
code and found this bug. This better not be intentional. And it's just like, if player shot dies.
This should not happen.
This should not happen. SMH. Oh my goodness.
Oh no. Oh no, and they don't have a way to get out. Fleeks could definitely get refragged here. What? No way. Fleek's going silly inside a closet room. At least Quixie gets the fights. But how has Fleek's been allowed to still live inside of Master? There is just no way. Just throw another grenade. Throw another grenade terminal. You're fine. Yep. Get it ready. Toss it out. There it is. Now Castle's scared, and there we go. They run into you. That is just simple ergonomics there. I knew that was going to happen from a mile away. Terminal now gets down. Azura is in the 1vx. Maybe actually revive Terminal. Yeah, they'll do exactly that. That's a really good call. So you're back in a 2 versus 2. The only problem is the health disadvantage. Both Azura and Terminal are one shot away from death. And there's Kona stations on the opposing side, so Ancient Boot can get fully healed, and then Ajax could actually overheal themselves. I believe Ancient Boot tried just yokaiing a Gemini replicator. Okay. That
Does
is
it clear it?
That is something. Work? No, that does not clear it. He still had to shoot it, and Ajax will now shoot out Azura. Nobody checked for Addict, unfortunately. Cases dropped. Terminal has no grenades. So this actually might be the first round on the board for St. Ambrose, unless they really do a proper job of actually losing out this round. But they are just set up in such passive angles that might not happen. Yeah, no. The exact opposite will occur. It's not going to be a 7-0, Scott. It will be finally some sort of life that we get to see on the opposing side. But for how long can they keep up that mirage?
That's it, St. Ambrose. Breathe. You're finally finding something. It's like putting one of those nasal strips on your nose, or putting Vicks VapoRub on your chest. And it feels like you can smell like 6 states over, and you can just smell that sweet Oregon air, so to say, and just see all those nice vacation homes that exist over there. And we hear so much about. But St. Ambrose putting their name on the board in a passive way for only half the team. It was a big mixture, a mixed bag, so to say, a melting pot for their strategy. Is one, maybe 2 players. I think it was 2 that's kind of being hyper aggressive, playing in closet, still comes up with 2, buys an immense amount of time, and puts a little bit of damage off to the 3rd, which ultimately gets cleaned up later. And then 2 players at the end, rightly so, playing extremely passively. It's 2 players that you would expect to play passively, Ajax on the Thunderbird and Ancient Boot on that Echo. So they played their roles quite well, and I liked what they applied to the round. But that's not exactly possible here. I don't expect St. Ambrose to extend to the 1st floor. I don't expect them to extend up to the 2nd either, despite that being a very solid strategy for this map. So there's not the same level of cheeky that can be employed like there was just last round on 2nd floor.
10 seconds left.
I wonder how Quixie's going to implement the Ying here. That's what I want to know, because yes, there's like the default option of like having the Ying to quickly clear out E-Box Hatch and all that, and like get control of Killer very quickly if you're going to do that. But we have seen everything but default tonight. So maybe they're going to rush Laundry or like go Freezer. Freezer Wall, both of them, they've been reinforced as well. So that's quick entry point there for Rio Grande if they want to approach from there. Really, all these castle barricades by Fleegs have been used just to completely deny any of the defenders from stopping Rio Grande from getting any early map control. Like, yeah, this castle barricade here, that's going to waste some time, sure, but then this one here, it just completely stops you from shooting anybody near barrel room, and that allows such ease of access here for Rio Grande.
In terms of ease of access as well, you have to get through the Electro Claw, and you didn't really bring your Maverick in that direction, which makes things a bit more difficult, but I'm more curious about where Azuri is. Obviously, still 1st floor. I think maybe they want to go for E-Box. We thought that was a big prying point for St. Ambrose on their attack, and I think that could also be a point of contention here, but if they use these Candelas to success, then it's going to be to clear out a player inside of Pillar, but there's no one actually there. Instead, the player is actually holding within the site. They've barricaded out. It will have to be cleared quite quickly, but those sight lines can still be held quite strongly, especially with the weapons that are in hand beside of St. Ambrose. Fleeks goes for a peek. I think, unfortunately, gets blinded, but it's Caboose with a kill with a nade onto Ajax through the hole. Fleeks will manage to get the refrag back with that 1.5 on the UMP. Quixie through E-Box, finding Trojan. Nitro over the top, and Hines will fortunately spread themselves quite thin after getting themselves that kill. Player from Laundry is the player of Caboose. This is a really good spread from the Rio Grande side. They're looking in this one.
Oh, and they've got that cutoff angle as well to deny the rotate hole. They could get this round in the bag over and done with here. Hines falls too. There is just nothing left for Ancient Boot to do. They can get on the Yokai, but their position is well known by Caboose, and it might have not been a 7-0, but it was the next best thing, to now a 7-1 victory for Rio Grandes in map number 3, and that is it. The best of 3 is now completely over and done with, and that was a very one-sided affair, which is what I was kind of worrying about. Was we saw how unprepared St. Ambrose looked on Villa, and then the exact same thing happened on Oregon. It looked like they were like only confident moving into Clubhouse from what we saw, which is definitely upsetting, but that's something that can be easily fixed later on throughout the rest of this ACC season.
It's kind of like the Mr. Incredible meme of like the happy face, then sad face, then happy face.
Oh no.
Villa, Clubhouse. Oh yeah, we're back into the fray here.
St. Ambrose
Oregon, it's not it, right? It's not it. It was so weird to see it because Villa and Oregon are total polar opposites in a lot of ways. You would not expect a team that was super dominant on Villa to be able to turn it around on Oregon and do the exact same thing. And I do think the strategies for Villa were just so much better. If there was, from the get-go, I just believed after I saw the first attacking round from Rio Grande, I believed that they were the better team going into it. Just because of what I saw Boost do. It was just too strong of a play. Perfect placement, a great default look through that first floor to get the control in the second. We saw just none of that whatsoever from St. Ambrose. But St. Ambrose really brought it back. I loved their clubhouse in a lot of ways. It was the perfect way to counteract what Rio Grande were playing, but it's not the right way to play clubhouse.
Yeah, and I think they'll have a lot to go over. We were definitely very constructural with what we were talking about throughout maps 1 through 3. Maybe I don't know if that's how you properly say that word. Very constructive.
We gave constructive criticism, yes.
Yeah, we were very constructive, sorry.
We gave constructual guidance.
Yeah, maybe if we were like contractors, that would actually be like the right way to say it. I have zero idea. Anyways, we maybe say I would flex off my muscles, but I've not hit the gym in a very long time, so they are not what they used to be, unfortunately. But with that being said, we are hopefully able to get another matchup underway in about 15 minutes or so, perhaps. So stick around if you are interested in for that. But if not, then this is the end of us for tonight if we are not going into a second best of 3 here for the B stream. So with all that being said, we if not we're able to, then shout outs to Burr and also Max D up here on the observation and prod for tonight. Big ups to them, and also us as well at Feldecaster and at Infernosis, NIFERNOS1S. So now that we've shouted ourselves out, we can go and call the stream off for tonight until we go into the second matchup and be back in just a little while if we have a game, of course.